Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Grappler Union podcast. On this episode, we have Paul Doe in studio. Paul is a Brazilian Jiu Jitsu Brown Belt, and he trains out of Brazil 021. Enjoy.
I need the 6 minutes. It's what happens in that 6 minutes.
You told me using any technique that works. Never to limit myself to one style. Keep an open mind.
We're not here just to take part. We're here to take over.
In order to become more peaceful, in order for you to become better and strategize your life.
I might have some of that. All right, we're live.
Not on mic, Zito.
I'm
Not
not
on
going
mic.
to have any on mic, but Paul Doe brought us some Super Fruit Mix Haichu acai candies.
The best.
So good. Oh, it's
Zito
a
has
mixture. There's a mixture. There's dragon fruit, acai, and kiwi. Got it.
And dragon fruit is not like a very common fruit in this country. So tell me what you think. I really like them. I could eat a whole bag. In one sitting.
Well, let's not let that happen.
Right.
One day you'll have to make weight again.
Right, exactly. Enjoying the injury addled days right now. Just eating whatever I want.
So what'd you do to yourself?
I tore my labrum and I dislocated my right shoulder in the last fight to win.
Yeah.
That was in Chicago in May. It was actually 2 or 3 minutes into the fight, and I fought for about a minute with the shoulder feeling like it was
Falling out. Yeah.
There's a huge knot, and if you see on the Flow Grappling clip of my submission, I grimace really intensely. And people, making comments on like, "Oh, I love the face you're making." But
Right, you're like, murder face.
Right.
And you're like, no.
But it's like that face came from like massive amounts of pain.
Yeah.
And in my head, I'm thinking, if I don't finish here, I'm going to lose this fight because, like adrenaline can only take you so far.
Right.
But yeah, so I've been on the shelf for now, I guess, 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
I'm targeting a return to like full practice, full training, maybe after Labor Day. So it's been interesting to be out for this long. I haven't missed class. I just come and watch and
Coach from the sidelines and stuff.
no, we don't allow that at the school. But I'm taking mental notes and keeping sharp.
Are you teaching?
I am teaching,
Okay, good.
so helping Professor Hanette on Mondays with the fundamentals, and then I cover the fundamentals class myself on Wednesdays, and that really helps keep your mind sharp.
Right.
And so, and especially fundamentals class, I love it because, if you have good fundamentals, you're going to have good jiu-jitsu.
Bottom line,
So,
right?
Yeah, exactly.
It blows my mind. Like, I have never stopped taking the fundamentals class. Like, it's just part of my thing. And now I teach it, but I still, like, if I wasn't teaching that period, I would still go to train it because I just can't stop. I can do arm bars, triangles, kimuras. I can do those sweep. I can do them all day long. I never want to stop ever. Okay, I'm done. I know how to do it. No, man, just so many little. And the more I roll with white belts and blue belts and stuff like that, and try to utilize techniques. When we were talking about a little bit earlier before we went on air about high level wrestlers coming into our school.
Right.
I notice that they're very hard to sweep.
Yeah.
So the technique, they're sweepable, but they're definitely in a different.
They're not white belt level.
They're not
base.
white belt, or some even blue belt level. Where their base is so good. So to get them to go, my technique has got to be so dialed in.
Right.
And the different weights. Now I'm dealing with like, I try to go up when I go with, so we have some big wrestlers that come to our school, and they might not know jiu-jitsu, but they do have a great base.
Right.
So when they're like, I think the last guy I rolled was about 195 pounds.
Oh, wow.
So I like playing guard, obviously. So I pull guard, and I'm just working on A, can I fend him off so he can't pass? And B, can I sweep this guy with stuff I've been working? And initially, no. But then I start looking for holes in his game and notice he goes on one side or it does, and then I can figure it out in a 5-6 minute period, and then I'll sweep him.
Right.
But I love playing that game. I'm not going for submissions with these guys. They're gonna fucking 195 pound guy. He could crush me at any time. He could just stand up and just slam me. But if I can get technical enough where I can sweep him, and he does not want to get swept,
Right.
then I know I'm going to keep advancing my game, and eventually I'll get that submission off. You know,
Correct. Yeah,
where I
I mean-
want it to be.
But Zito, what are you going to do if you actually do sweep him one time? I mean, you going to come up on top? And
I guess, right? No, I'm just going to go right back to the ground.
Oh, okay.
Let him turn me right back over on my
you come
guard.
up long enough to get your points and then pull guard again.
Pull guard Exactly.
Oh, man.
But yeah, it's a fun game, and I'm only starting to realize this now at purple, where
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, now I really love the technical aspect of everything. Like I'm really trying to dial in every little thing, every little detail, and I take every roll, whoever I'm rolling with, I really take differently. Like I'm not just doing, I'm just going to go to my go-to. No, I'm really dialing different types of scenarios. So it's fun. I enjoy it so much. That's why I'm shocked that people don't come to fundamentals or
Yeah.
stop coming to fundamentals. Just go to advanced class.
It's kind of crazy. I mean, I see it a lot with blue belts. You know, when they're
Yeah.
white belt, they go to fundamentals a lot. They get their blue belt, and then all of a sudden, they're like, "Oh, I want to add a couple more advanced classes," and then they start going to advanced class instead of fundamentals.
Right.
And that's why you see a lot of fundamentals classes, mostly white belts.
Right.
But if you see like the savages, the black belts that are competing at an adult level. Great masters competitors at our academy, they're going to fundamentals every time. They use fundamentals every roll. I mean, Professor Hannett used a fundamentals pass we used for half guard in Worlds this year, led her to the mount. So the fundamentals will always be there. And if you just look at somebody like Roger Gracie,
Yes.
probably the GOAT competitor of all time, I mean, the stuff he's doing is just, I don't like calling it basic, but he's just doing
He no longer
fundamentals.
likes when people call it basic either, for the record.
I just bought his gi.
You bought his gi?
Well,
You can hang it on his wall?
yeah, pretty much. No, I bought the shoulder
shoulder
roll,
roll.
so I have it, and I just got it the other day. I wore it this Saturday.
Are you
for open
invincible
mat.
now?
Let me explain something. This gi,
Oh, Jesus.
it must weigh twice the normal weight of a gi.
Okay. So it's
Twice. It's so
it's like
fucking
double or
heavy.
triple weave?
I was like, what the fuck am I feel like I put it on. I have a weighted
Suit
vest
armor.
on. I'm like, oh my god, it's like a weighted fucking gi.
It'll be a good weight cut gi.
For
You're
sure.
gonna sweat a lot in it.
I mean,
yeah.
I loved it. So Sarah, I'm like, I don't know how this is gonna work. Initially, when I put it on, I'm like, I might be selling this to Javi. I don't know. So,
Yeah, because I want heavyweight gis.
but then I trained with it all day Saturday, and I'm like, you know what? After I took it off, I'm like, man, this fucking felt good. Like just heavy, and just when it got wet, it was even heavier. And I'm like, okay, I can get on board with this,
Right.
Because it's like training with a weight vest.
Had a goofy experience the other day. So one of our guys, like, just the weirdest request. One of our guys at 10th Planet Chicago, no gi guy, wrestling background. He kind of requested, I don't know if he's planning on, we didn't discuss this at all, so I have no idea what the origin of this, but he kind of requested, he's like, hey, can some guys bring their gis in on Saturday, birthday gi rolls? And I'm like, yeah, sure. So, I bring my gi, Alex Kim, a couple of the other guys bring their gis. Josh brings his gi in, and he's got this, you'll love it, okay? Like, he's got this Origin gi, ridiculously expensive. It's got what feels like a normal collar, okay? Like I grip up on the collar, and it just feels totally normal. The material of it is unlike anything I ever felt. Like, I don't want to make it sound like it's, like, greasy or anything, but, like, the cut of it is, like, so smooth that, like, it's actually kind of hard to hold on to. This is not IBJJF legal, mind you. Okay. But it's a super, super cool feeling gi. And it's, except for the collar, it's super lightweight. So like the collar feels just like normal, grips exactly the way you'd think it would. The sleeves, the rest of the weight of the gi feels like an ultra lightweight gi. I don't know what material it is. Yeah, but it was
hard to hold on to.
It was a little tricky to get grips on
Would
because
you not get the same friction that you would on
like I said, I don't know what the material was, but like the first thought, just like the way it looked, the way it felt, I'm like, man, it's almost like a silk gi. Like it wasn't silk, but I mean, like it was it was beautiful. Like it's an absolutely beautiful gi.
And you're thinking to yourself, my grips are better than this. What's going on here?
Nah, I'm like my grips are trash. I'm just gonna do no gi in the gi.
I figure a no-gi guy would get that type of gi, though. That would totally make
Yeah,
sense.
for sure.
I don't know that I don't know that he actually knew what it was
Probably
going to feel
not,
like
but it just
before he
worked
got
out
it.
for him,
Yeah,
right.
He's
Yeah.
like, expensive, must be good.
Yeah, right?
Man, Origin makes some awesome products. They are
very
fairly pricey.
I mean, I think when I talked to him about that gi, it was probably more than the show your roll I just bought, and that was pricey.
Right.
Yeah, it was
Well,
definitely close to $300,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Crazy thing is, I had it in the cart online.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
It
you were
sold out.
while you had it in
while
your
I was
cart?
entering my
Isn't
payment
that
information.
bullshit?
It's crazy
though?
though.
That's
yeah.
happened to me in the past,
Yeah.
where I put stuff in the cart and I thought I got
It's
it,
reserved.
Right.
and then I'm like taking my time, putting my thing, and then it's like gone. I'm like, wait, what the fuck just happened?
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
You can get away with that with like digital products. You can't get away with that with real stuff.
Well, the thing
man.
is that you can still pre-order it,
Yeah, I could
but
pre-order
it comes
now.
in October or
Right.
November, some crap like that.
And then the excitement that I have about the gi has waned.
Exactly,
And then you're like,
yeah.
oh wait, I bought this gi.
I don't know
now
what
I gotta wear
I don't know
it.
what this feels like. I'm just like, oh yeah, cool.
You're not a gi hoarder.
I mean, I have a lot of gis at this point because it's actually kind of more convenient than having to do like a bajillion loads of laundry throughout the week
Right.
from having only one or two gis.
I've got some for you too. I got another. I got
one that you hate.
Yeah, not one that I hate. That I just have to. I got to unload, man. I got to unload. So anyone out there with the A0, DM me, and I can unload some more gis on you.
Oh
too,
man,
if you guys
I
looking for
found out
gis.
like, one of the guys wore a gi today, and I'm like, what size is that? Oh, sorry, he forgot his gi, and he grabbed like one of the gis at the academy, and I'm like, what size is that? He's like, it's an A2. And I'm like, you're not an A2. Like, you're thinner than me even. He's like, yeah, normally I wear an A1. And I look at him like, bro, like, what cut of A1 are you wearing? Right. You know, yeah. So it was just a weird experience. But then the guy he was training gi with, they swapped gis, and it was like, okay, you're actually an A2, and you can fit in that shrunk down A1 that he was trying to fit into. So,
what are you? Are you A1?
I'm A1, yeah.
Oh,
so
okay.
one of the things that I like to hang my hat on is I took my first class in a gi. It was an A3. So yeah. So
I've seen pictures
Damn.
from those,
Yeah.
that era.
it was a different Paul back before.
A lot more to love.
A lot more to love. A lot more handles. A lot more to grab.
How long ago was that?
That was when I started with Brazil 021 was April of 2014. I was 205 pounds and in pretty bad shape health-wise.
205.
205, yeah. For frame of reference, my last fight to win match was at 140. And I've actually gotten down, last year at Master Worlds, I got down to light feather. And you know how much you have to get to.
Yeah.
You got to be at least, or most 137.
Yeah,
To give
137.
yourself.
Yeah,
It depends on how much your gi weighs.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm never going to go down to light feather again. That was the
was
worst
brutal.
cut ever. Yeah.
Was it?
Yeah, because there's just not enough water for me to
Yeah.
suck at that point, especially with the day of weigh-in. Fight the win's a little different because you can
day before.
get a little more extreme with the weight cutting.
Yeah. I mean, I walk around like 135, 136.
So you're
And, like
right there.
I'm eating acai before I got on the mat. It
And we
doesn't
hate you.
matter to me.
Right.
Yeah. But that's where I hang out. That's where my weight's at.
So you just come in strong and
Yeah, I just come in, right,
That's
yeah.
awesome.
What sucks is when no one's in my division and I have to like go up a division if I want to get a fight. That's when it really sucks.
Yeah.
So those guys are cutting to get to that division.
Right.
I came
Now I'm
super
little.
close to doing Chicago Open,
That's
but
how
there was
you
just
are, too.
nothing. There was no one at either. Well, I shouldn't. Sorry, I don't want to say there was no one. I checked like at the 0 hour on Saturday. My finger hovering, like, should I register? Should I not? And I'm like, okay, I'm going to either fight. Last Chicago Open, the only opponent I had was Urshad from Alliance. And
Yeah,
he
watched
was
that match.
Yeah.
Yep.
And he was signed up for, I think, light feather Masters 2. And then there was a guy in Masters 3 featherweight that I'd never fought before. So I'm like, okay, I can either do my age bracket and get one match plus the absolute, and maybe if this guy's also signs up in gi the next day, or I could fight or shot again and get one match. So then I checked the brackets afterwards, and it looks like both those brackets dissolved into other brackets. So Rashad moved to I'm not sure which, and the other guy, I lost track of his name, but he wasn't in the same weight class anymore. So I think he bumped up to like a higher weight class or something.
Was that the first time you'd ever face Urshad? If I've been in the
Yeah, I mean, we rolled in the gym back
yeah.
at like purple belt maybe, but yeah, we'd never squared up in the match.
So I'm entering your age and belt level now. So
Bring it.
Yeah. I'm not saying I'm challenging you. I'm just saying
You're still injured.
watching that match was a good
tool.
Yeah, a good tool. It was a good frame of reference because I haven't done a IBJJF brown belt bracket yet, and to watch that, it was really cool, man. It was you did a hell of a job.
Oh, thanks.
It was impressive.
I was pretty happy with how that one went, but like he got that guard jump on me like super fast. I'm like, oh damn! Like right into the post. Damn it!
But you didn't panic, and it was.
No, I just made it look like I wasn't panicking. I was like, I don't want to be here.
It was really nice to watch, man. Your top pressure is really excellent, and
thank you.
Yeah, and once you got the pass, it was like.
That's it. Crucifix.
Yeah, right,
man.
crucifix.
I don't want to give away my strategy, but most like I don't get the I don't get the reaction from guys that either aren't points players, or at least aren't used to like the IBJJF style, where it's like you could take away the pass points by turtling, but I'm actually like really dangerous when guys turtles because I don't need to get hooks in,
Right,
so
to
I'll just go
finish.
crucifix.
Right.
So like. Eventually, guys are just going to figure that out, or they'll listen to the podcast and use it against me. But I feel like that's one of the reasons I've done well in IBJJF is just that habit. I've got pretty decent passing. Once I get past, guys don't want to let me settle and get to like a side control or a knee on belly or something, so they turtle right away, and I just chase for the crucifix.
Right.
And that's why I've probably got more finishes by crucifix in the IBJJF than I have by any other submission.
Right.
Oh,
yeah.
wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is a
That's just the
very
way it comes in.
common way to recover guard, especially in the points, right? So
Exactly.
Right, yeah. Turn in, turn back.
yeah, you'd rather give up one advantage than
Right,
give
than
up the
3 points for a pass.
because
Absolutely.
especially in Masters matches that are only 5 minutes, you give up 3 points or you get a takedown to start the match. You're maybe getting one or two other positions,
Right.
And so people sell out, 100% to not give up their give up a pass. And so
What's up with that? What's up with the 5 minutes? I don't like that. I'd rather go 10.
I believe the idea is that we're old men and we don't have the
I
endurance to
think
do a
that's
10-minute
fucking
match.
bullshit. That's so bizarre.
Depending on which Masters Division guy you talk to, that can be true. I've definitely talked to guys who are like, yeah, man, I'm done with those long matches.
How about you? You feel 5 minutes is a little short.
I think they
Or is it just me?
Master One matches, black belt are 6 minutes. 6 minutes is about the perfect time. And when our match in Fight to Win was 6 minutes, I think.
Yeah, probably.
Purple belts are 6 minutes is about, I think, the perfect time.
I think that's what the average gym clock at most of the gyms that I'm at also is set to. Like most guys seem to do a 6, occasionally a 5-minute round, or there's no time at all. So that happens.
In the
too.
fundamentals class, we do 3-minute rounds for the fundamentals.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So
Push the pace.
We just said 3 minutes, and then if they want to roll longer, we invite them to stay for the advanced class, but we don't let them do.
I get
more
that.
than Yeah, just because they're learning and
Right.
Is it
they're
all
like they're all fucking breathing heavy.
They're all dead after 2 minutes anyway, right?
is it all positional stuff in fundamentals, or do you let them just start?
No, we let them roll.
Okay. Yeah, I wasn't sure.
Yeah. No, we don't just do positional.
I like positional.
I agree. I
Yeah.
love positional
Yeah.
sparring. I love that.
Fundamentals and specific training or positional sparring, those are two of the big keys to constant improvement in
Yes.
jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, I agree.
Because you're forced to be in bad positions. You're forced to be out of your A game. You might be only forced to do 1 or 2 moves, and it really focuses the brain and it prepares you for competition. I'm a big believer in that.
Yeah.
And the schools that don't, they just say, hey, go roll. I think they're missing out.
Yeah, especially when you start seeing patterns of like certain people. When you roll with them, they don't like. As soon as you take their back, like, oh, okay, I'm tapping. I literally didn't do shit to you. Like they're just so uncomfortable
Right.
being there.
Right.
They're just like, okay, I'm just gonna tap and we can reset.
And we can reset, right.
I'm like, no. Why don't you go deep? I mean,
I'm not sure if I would respect that tap. I'd probably just
keep going.
Yeah. Be like, what are you tapping to?
I thought you were just flailing your arms.
Yeah,
I didn't feel that one.
that's so funny.
That's funny.
Although you have to be careful because like this was not like a true rolling situation at all. But I accidentally, like just screwing around, I stepped lightly on a training partner's fingers as if to say that I was going to smash his hand. It was
Okay.
just the other day, and I had no idea he had a finger injury. So he started like yelling and whatnot. I'm like, I thought he was joking around with
Right.
me. He's like, my foot. I'm
Selling
like,
the
oh
joke.
Jesus. I'm like, I'm sorry. What was the 1 in a million chance that I stepped on your jammed finger playfully and it was actually hurting you? Yeah. So yeah.
Don't be that
obviously-
guy, Javi. Don't be that guy.
I thought I was joking around. I'm just an asshole, it seems.
Every gym has one of those, right?
Clearly.
It's always injuring their teammates.
Yeah. I go home and I write in my diary, I'm like, I don't understand why they hate me.
Oh, man.
I believe that's true, though. I believe you do have write a diary.
That I don't understand why people hate me? No, I know exactly why I keep a record of that. Like, yeah, James is really upset with me because of the manner in which I strangled him today.
Wrist locks everywhere. Everyone hates you.
Man, I've been teasing my guys because I do a fair amount of wrist locks, but not like it's not like my normal thing. But then I had a roll with Pete the Greek when Jeff Glover was in town, and he wrist locked me, and I'm just like, okay, vengeance on the rest of the world now. So I have been like it occurred to me that most of the time in my game when I go to wrist lock somebody, I'm actually like going for it, and it's like an actual full on submission attempt.
Right.
And then guys kind of sniff that out, and if they're not familiar with it, like I catch them a lot, like especially guys that are like doing stupid shit, like trying to like bench press you off or whatnot. But like, you know, when they've got full awareness that you're actually really going for it, they defend real hard, and suddenly it's a little difficult to get the submission.
Right.
So I've been like throwing like casual wrist locks in real weird positions where it's just like, oh, like, no, clearly I'm just battling for a grip, but suddenly wrist lock.
Right.
Those have been happening a shocking number of times where I actually catch guys and get taps and whatnot. So like I was teasing the guys just today. I was like, yeah, I'm gonna run a whole month of training where we're gonna do nothing but wrist locks being loud, just to get you guys used to it. Because this should not be this effective. I should not be like, surprise, motherfucker! Right. All these wrist locks.
Surprise wrist locks. I like it.
No, that'll be the name of my DVD.
That's a good name. That's a good name.
If anyone's gonna do a DVD on wrist locks, it should be Pete the Greek. And the fact he doesn't actually have one.
Yeah, it is sad he doesn't have one.
Yeah. Wrist lock the world. He's got a hashtag. He's got
everything with that.
Yeah. No actual
Wrist
DVD
lock the
content.
fire. He's got everything wrist lock. Everything.
Yeah. Wrist lock
amazing.
time. Wrist lock the wristwatch.
And they Rio's back up. I heard that
Different location.
different location.
Yeah. Smaller than it was.
Okay.
Nice. I mean, nice little mat space and everything. But yeah, like you know, I've been Pete's old academy, and I'm bad with like actual dimensions, but in my mind, it's like a third the size, maybe. So yeah, things are a little tighter
Same
in there.
neighborhood.
Not exactly like down the ways a bit.
Okay.
But yeah, not bad. Street parking, you know, pretty cool. Yeah. But I do miss the old joint.
Yeah, I never made it out there. But obviously,
cool
Pete, you know, he's a legend.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And he knows all the legends too.
Yes,
Right.
he does.
Yeah.
He's one of the original gringos down there, right?
I don't know about original, but yeah,
right.
he's definitely that generation before us that was right there during the rise of it all. So
Yeah. So you started out 2012, 2014?
2014,
I thought you were going to say his weight. Again. You started off how many pounds?
No, at 205. But so you just did jujitsu. Like what brought you? Because you were 205 pounds. Were you like what brought you there? Like
Yeah,
how'd you even
so,
think about jujitsu?
To the 205 or to the jiu-jitsu?
No, just to the
Or both?
like just how'd you get
How
to
many
jujitsu?
of these candies did you eat?
to get to 205?
It's funny. Back in the day, I would eat like boxes of popsicles. It's crazy, right? So I have a massive sugar addiction. But to go back to your question, I wrestled in high school.
Okay.
I coached wrestling when I was in my 20s. And I did a year of no-gi with Dino Castillas, TDC, down in I was at West Loop, a little farther west than that. So because I thought, you know, at the time he was training Andrei Arlovsky, I was like 27 years old, you know, I wrestled. And so I was like, you know, I wanted to be where MMA fighters were. I didn't think about the gi at all. But you know, that year I was young, dumb. I'd met my wife during that year. We started to get a little serious, and I quit after about a year. And for about 6 years, I lived pretty unhealthily, especially eating, drinking, partying, things like that. And I had a health scare in early 2014. And my wife had been telling me for all those years, like, hey, you need to go back to jiu-jitsu. And back, you know, when I was with Dino, it was a lot of just MMA sparring. You know, I did a couple jiu-jitsu for MMA classes, but it was all no-gi, right? And a lot of guys come in, a lot of MMA fighters. I'm little at the time and just getting smashed. So I think one of the things I picked up from there was defensive guard. And so I came into Brazil 021 with that background, but I was huge. I mean, I had gained so much weight. But putting on the gi really changed my life. Because in no gi, especially with a wrestling background, you can kind of get away with, you know, being quicker, being faster, being a little strong, being slippery.
Slippery, right? Yeah.
You know, when you put the gi on, it makes you so technical because if somebody gets a deep collar grip, you're not slipping out of it. Nope. You know, you better figure out an actual pathway to get out. Mm-hmm. And so when I put the gi on for the first time, Professor Annette Stack was teaching the class. I could barely make it through the warm-up. I went to my rescue inhaler. But the way she ran the class, the welcoming environment, I was hooked right away. And then once you start understanding that you can't just barrel through everything or pick everybody up and slam them, you know, and drive through everything, you know, especially as little guys.
Yeah.
And I was hooked right away. And by August of that year, so 4 months after I started, I did my first IBJJF. I had lost like 30 pounds.
Wow.
It was happening fast. I used to get paired with the big guys.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden...
You're like, thank God I don't have to do that anymore.
And then about 7.5 months later, I got my blue belt. I had gone down one size in gis, and it just took off. Like I always think about what Nate Diaz said about his jiu-jitsu journey. He's like, you know, I used to go and train as a white belt because they would buy me lunch after. Yeah. And then he says, next thing you know, I'm a blue belt. You know, for me, it was, I showed up that day. I knew I needed to make a change health-wise. It was addictive. I signed up that night. And the next thing you knew, you know, a few months later, I'm a blue belt, competing, traveling to compete. And once I got the competition bug,
right,
it never stopped. I've done like over 20 IBJJF tournaments in the a little over 5 years since I put on the gi. But a friend of mine from Denver, he's a black belt, Jeff Ake, he told me, he said, you know, putting the gi on changed your life.
Sure.
Because if it was just training no gi, it's different. It's a different game. Because there's so many attacks in the gi, you have to be technical. You have to be defensive. You know, there's a million ways a guy can strangle you with the cloth and everything like that. So because of that,
I totally agree with that.
Yeah.
I'm the voice of dissension, but I'm gonna let you talk.
We can talk about that later. You don't agree with
I
that.
wildly disagree, actually.
Really?
Yeah.
But I will agree with one thing. You and I have a pretty similar story where I came from a wrestling background. I dropped out of my athletic career in terms of, you know, because I met a fantastic woman.
Right.
And you found food.
No, I didn't find food. I just maintained the same eating schedule as I did when I was burning, 5,000 calories a workout. I don't think I actually ate more. I just ate the exact same amount and stopped working out at all. Yeah. So I gained a ton of weight. And oddly enough, it was judo that did it for me. It was getting back into things through judo. So in a way, I guess you could say the gi served that same purpose for me. Yeah. Not the same art, but if I hadn't done judo, I don't know what I would have done with myself or if I'd even be here today.
But I remember hearing, I forgot what I was watching or who. I know it was a black belt who said it because it was some kind of event and they were commentating on the event and someone was asking, the difference between a no gi and gi, and the guy explained it, which I thought was a good explanation. It kind of made sense to me. He said, no gi is like a video game with 10 levels, and gi is like a video game with 100 levels. There's just so much more you have to think about. Now, Avi doesn't agree with this.
Yeah.
No, I really don't.
I just want to, because I know you and I have talked about this past, but can you?
Yeah, because I'm on Zito's team with this one.
Yeah.
Well, okay, so first of all, I don't think one's necessarily more technical than the other, but I do, I'm not delusional. It's not like I think that there's the exact same number of moves in both systems. Mm-hmm. Like adding the collar, adding the belt, adding the pants, that definitely changes things just in terms of you could know the exact same number of moves, but in one you need to know wildly different grip breaks and gripping sequences than the other. So yeah, I definitely agree that there's more canonical knowledge required for one versus the other if we're talking about the whole of jiu-jitsu. And as we add or subtract elements, that's always going to be true. Like if I throw a knife into into a jiu-jitsu roll, suddenly you need a lot more stuff.
It's a different variable that's added.
Exactly.
Right.
So the gi adds variables,
Right.
Which adds a number to the amount of techniques. And a lot of people see number and they go, oh, well, this has 500 moves and that only has 250 moves. Clearly, this is better. Okay. I don't necessarily agree that the gi makes you more technical, though I think for a lot of people, especially starting off, maybe not having any grappling experience at all, the gi tends to be easier precisely because it is oftentimes a slower, more paced game. Athleticism can be largely negated by grips. But that's where I find that like sort of the analogy kind of breaks down at the same time.
Well, if you're talking technique, I mean, obviously you need technique in both.
Well, yeah, exactly. But here's the thing. Okay, so and I'm going to probably make this sound like I'm talking about like one's easy, one's hard, one's regular, one's training wheels, whatever. Like somebody's going to get butthurt no matter what side I come down on, right? But here's the thing.
Or you could just agree with us and then save yourself.
Well, yeah,
Just
but
kidding.
why would I do that?
Don't do that.
Why start now? Known Zito for how many years now? Agreed how many times? Count them on one hand. So here's the thing. You absolutely can slip out of an arm bar pretty easily in no-gi once you're lathered up in sweat and it's round 25 in 90-degree weather. Right? Okay. That's way, way harder to do when we add the gi. You have to have technical, I'm making air quotes, technical escapes, right?
Correct.
Okay. So what takes more technique to pull off? An arm bar in 90-degree weather, 25th round, when both dudes are lathered up in sweat in no-gi? Or an arm bar in the gi where all you really needed to do was have a good grip strength in that left hand for that collar?
Right.
So you're saying it requires more offensive technique to finish in no-gi because people are slippery,
Possibly.
and might require more technical defense in gi because there's so many more attacks.
Your future politician career is saved.
I said we can split the baby here.
That's the thing. Like, I think they're both equally technical in their own way.
Yeah.
I don't deny that one has more technique volume, like I said, just because the added element of it. But like some of the most technical players I know in the world today are no-gi guys. And it's only gi guys that are like, well, actually.
What are you going to do if I take out your lapel, wrap it around your leg 3 times?
Right, but see, that's just it. Like it's funny. Like I'm going to reference them again. Keenan and Hinger have the Matt Burn podcast, and Hinger is obviously a no-gi champion, but he trains in the gi all the time. Keenan, predominantly a gi player, actually has gone on at length about how much he hates no-gi. But it's like, listen, man, if all you're doing is spider guard and worm guard and lapel guards and all this kind of stuff, and suddenly that's gone, okay, what are you going to fall back on? You're going to fall back on your no-gi fundamentals, or you're not going to have any game at all.
Right.
Okay? Whereas as the no-gi guy, maybe the first time I get hit with spider guard, I've told that story before. The first time I felt a real, true, honest-to-God, powerful spider guard was at Marcelo's, of all places. And I'm like, oh, this is not as easy to deal with as I thought. And I had to go and learn how to deal with it. But once I did, it was like, okay, not that I completely shut down spider guard as a game, but now I know what to do. And it was just like any other technique. Now I know the answer. I know how to move my hand to defend the sleeve or deflect the leg or so on and so forth. So, yeah, it's like, for me, it's not a matter of one is more technical than the other, or one always will produce more technical athletes than the other. Like, there are plenty of guys that are super fast, explosive, and in the gi. And if you don't believe me, I'll show you what judo looks like.
Right.
So, yeah, that whole – I understand the reason that belief is there, in large part because black belts say it all the time, and we just parrot it. Several of the black belts I train with feel exactly the same way. And I'm not saying they're wrong. I'm saying that from my perspective, it's not that it's more technical. It's that, especially, I feel like in many ways it's easier to teach guys that don't have some kind of base already. If you come in though and you're like, you know, like some Division I wrestler or anything, like, yeah, maybe you get loop choked the first time ever and you're like, what was that nonsense? Why do I have a noose around my neck? But as soon as you figure out how to block those simple things and whatnot, suddenly you're competing way above your level and it's like, oh yeah, the gi did that.
Right.
You know?
I see what you're saying. It's not. I wouldn't characterize that as you know, hard disagreement with what we're saying. It might be just a different.
I think it may just be semantics.
Yeah.
I think whenever you refer to one or the other as more technical, you're basically insulting the other group as if to say, he's, you know, the one I usually hear is, and it's funny because to me it's kind of the opposite story in a way. The one I usually hear is the no-gi guys are relying on speed and athleticism, and they, you know, it's a quicker, faster game, this, that, and the other thing. But I just think about, like, I can straight up, I know the guys that I can do this with. There's guys that I can maul in no-gi, okay? But if I put a jacket on and say, this is all I want you to do, grip here and here, and don't let me break your grips, I'll never break their grips.
Interesting.
Why? Because they outweigh me by 100 pounds and they're power lifters with unbreakable grips.
But take the jacket off.
But take the jacket off, they can't have that moment. So their strength, their overwhelming physicality, even though it's just in their grip, I mean, it's in other things too, but like I'm just addressing their grip, can actually stop me colder than they can in no-gi, where all the years of wrestling and knowing how, like, oh yeah, like he's going to try and snap me down and take a headlock. I'm not going to let that happen. You know, like all these things that I've got keyed in already, all the technique that I have, they've got no way of dealing with it.
Gotcha. But now, again, to play devil's advocate.
No, this is a fine debate.
Yeah. Doesn't that make you more technical in the gi then? If you're dealing with the strength of them with their grips, and you would be dealing with it differently, you have to have then a different pathway. You troubleshoot it differently.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
I'm not saying it's unstoppable. Don't get me wrong. They're a much greater challenge in the gi simply for the ability to take a grip and hold on. Not because they're doing anything technical, just because they can enforce their strength in a way that's much, much harder for me to deal with.
Gotcha.
So like here's an example. I don't know who the biggest dude in your academy is. Okay? Take that dude and tell him to reach over your back and grab your belt and then grab like a lapel, put you in closed guard, and hold on for dear life for 6 minutes. Now try to pass.
And the likely scenario is that he's just going to be able to hold me for about 6 minutes.
And if you do say that with somebody who's around your size, yeah, you could probably get out of it.
Yeah.
You know, and then we go, well, was that technique or was that muscle?
And so this goes against what I was about to say is that, you know, I think the large part of our argument is that it tells a big person that they have to slow down. And not rely on the strength and power that they're used to.
Right. You've nerfed their advantage over you by putting them in a gi and telling them they have to be technical. I saw that look. Yeah. Yeah. No. See. So I do this to my guys all the time, and it fucks with their heads because I'll look at a guy and I'll be like, "Listen, man, you're fast. Go ahead and be fast.
Yeah.
Don't rely on it because eventually you're going to go out there and you compete against somebody who's way faster than you. Right. Okay. You're strong. Don't rely on it. You're eventually going to run out there and run up against a guy who's way stronger than you. But I let them use their attributes and I develop their games around that, not try to develop them to like some centerline core and then go, okay, now that you have these fundamental ultra technical basics, now it's time to use your strength because tomorrow's competition.
Right.
Yeah.
I see what you're saying. You tailor your instruction around their
as much as I can. Like the more individual I'm allowed to work with somebody, the more I can tailor it to their specific game.
Javi, do you do privates?
So yes, I do.
Okay.
But because I have so little free time right now, I haven't actually been giving very many of them recently.
Because I mean, I always rave about how great of an instructor you are, and you know, I don't know. I mean, I know at our school, Andre does privates and you know takes people under the wing. But I was just wondering if you're going down that path of. I know your schedule is fucking ridiculous, but as you
No,
do you want to do that?
I
Is
have
it
done
something-
privates before when I have the free time, and I enjoy doing them. So long as you don't come to me and I'd be like, okay, so what are we working on today? And you're like, oh, I have no idea. Just show me a cool thing. Like,
I'm paying you.
and I'm like, okay, I'll show you a cool thing.
Would you be willing to like take someone like under your wing and be like, okay, I'm going to formulate your game based on like what you were just like and just take.
Hold on, let me revise what you're asking here. No, my regular training partners, I give them no choice. Okay, like if you train with me all the time and I see something that's deficient in your game or something you're really good at, I start teaching classes without necessarily telling you. I start teaching classes keyed in around that. Okay. So I got a kid that I work with at one of the gyms. A fantastic build for the classic triangle armbar combo specialist. Like he's got the necessary flexibility. He's got the limb length. Mm-hmm. Okay. This is not my game at all.
No.
I'm going to show him how to do that.
Right.
Okay. And like, it probably would seem ridiculous, that I'm like, okay, so we're going to do all triangles this week for people to be like, oh, why is he teaching that? Well, I'm doing that because even though it's not my game,
right.
it could, or perhaps even should be his game. Right. And I want to give him that experience and that specialized treatment. Makes sense. Then everyone else in the class just gets to follow along, and sometimes you get surprised and somebody else, takes to it like a duck to water. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so there's a variety of guys, I'm not going to name them, where I've just like straight up been like, okay, you're good at this, you're bad at that. Let's fix both those problems together, and we'll just base a whole month worth of classes on trying to get that one guy up on a certain thing, and then everyone just comes up together.
In the future, would you want to be, when you open up your own academy or whatever it is going to be, do you want to do like specific like training with certain athletes, like as a coach or as a like what your instructor does now?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like Luis and how they train MMA fighters and stuff like that.
So I don't want to not train MMA fighters. Like I'm not proficient enough in that realm.
No, jiu-jitsu.
Right.
And the judo.
Yeah. I want to focus on grappling. Like my ideal world is one day I'll find somebody who's got a diverse experience in striking, similar to how I have a diverse experience in grappling.
Right.
And our powers combined, we will be the Voltron of MMA.
God, your reference.
Everyone loved that one. What are you talking about? Those that are old enough to remember it. But yeah, so that's the thing. A lot of people come to me for specific stuff. Mm-hmm. Where they're like, you're really good at this, show me how you do it.
Right.
But then the guys that I work with, like there's some times where I just got to break it to you. I'm like, listen, man, you're actually not good at this, and I can spend a lot of time trying to get you good at it, but we'd actually be better served spending that equal amount of time getting you good at what you're good at.
Yeah.
So like, if I see a guy with, like long arms, long legs, I'm way more likely to be like, let's work on your darce, your anaconda, your triangle. Yeah. Than I am to be like, okay, bro, come over here. Let me show you how I take backs off a butterfly guy. So you squeeze down real tiny like. You
get real short.
Exactly.
Yeah. And like, not that I think, I'm kind of blessed in that I work with a wide variety of people and a wide variety of body types, but usually not like in huge numbers. Like a big class for me is not that big compared to some professors where it's like, oh Jesus, you got like 100 dudes on the mat right now. Like, how are you going to individually tailor everything for like 100 guys? No, you're gonna have to teach like a solid lesson that hopefully everyone can get something out of. Mm-hmm. And if dude over there is struggling because this is not in his game at all, hopefully next week he'll be fine.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's that's normal.
But when you're working with a dozen or less athletes, you got like 6 pairs of guys on the mat. You'd be over like, okay, here's what I want you to do. Here's what I want you to do. Yeah. Tie some of the stuff together. You're going to have to do this different because of your size, or you don't have the flexibility for this. So let's take this path. Like that's not a way to make money. Like,
I know what you mean.
But that's definitely the situation I'm in, and that's what I really like.
I'd imagine that most people that don't train with you regularly would know you for leg locks, because that's
pretty much everyone thinks of me as the leg lock guy.
That's why it was cool to watch you at IBJJF, because you just
I did not leg lock
you just
somebody?
smashed him, passed his guard, and hit the crucifix. There was not a leg lock attempted.
I think I touched his leg once.
Thought about it.
Yeah.
Is that because you're more technical in the gi?
Yes, it's because of my overwhelming technicality in the gi. I leave those dirty leg locks for no gi, where I can just be a speed and athleticism based slob. Troll. Saigon Cinnamon Troll.
Where'd the nickname come from?
It has a lot to do with where I was born. I was born in Saigon, Vietnam.
Okay, well,
and my dad
makes
was fought with the Americans, South Vietnamese, came over here when I was 2 years old on a boat. Left the communist country in '81. My sister was actually born on the boat. It's kind of crazy story.
Get out.
It does not get fresher off the boat than that, does it?
Right, yeah.
Was she in international waters or U.S. waters?
It was South China Sea. So, when she actually ended up getting her passport and citizenship, there was, they had to get
That's a little
people
big rigmarole, right?
Right, yeah. In Vietnam, sort of attesting to the fact that she was daughter of a Vietnamese citizen at the time and things like that. It's crazy. Yeah. So my older brother's 4, I'm 2. We were born in Saigon, now called Ho Chi Minh City under communist rule, but Saigon. And Saigon cinnamon is actually a stronger cinnamon flavor that comes from that region.
Oh, is that right?
And yeah, so if you've ever had pho, the ubiquitous Vietnamese soup, they use Saigon cinnamon in it. And it's a really fun nickname for me.
And you love that food.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, so it's
Man, I thought it was a skin color thing. I really did.
well, that helps too. But right now, I'm not. I need some vitamin D. It's not really the cinnamon color.
Dude,
right
look
now.
at
It's kinda
this.
olive.
Look at that.
Oh, Jesus
wow,
Christ.
huge farmer's tan.
Oh my
That's the worst farmer's tan ever.
Is that so ridiculous?
Yeah, I forgot just how white you actually are.
Yeah, I'm freaking I tan so fast. I've got my top off my Jeep like every day, and it just
It's not even. Listen. You solve this easily. You walk out of the gym. You take the gi off.
Yeah.
You don't put a shirt on.
Right.
Roll home like that. You'll be
Yeah.
fine. 3 weeks tops. You'll be evened out.
G-string, no lines.
just a seatbelt line around my That's it.
But we came to this country and we were sponsored by the Catholic Church. We ended up going to Ohio.
Okay.
My mom and dad had 3 more kids, so we have a big family, big Catholic
Wow.
family.
Interesting.
The Catholic Church sponsored us.
Okay.
And spent a few years there where my dad got his contractor's license, and then we moved to the Bay Area. So I was raised in the Bay Area.
Wow, that's all over the place.
All over the place. But obviously with Midwest roots. And when I was 23 after law school, I came to Chicago, and I've been there ever since. And I love Chicago. People always think that's weird that you come from, the Bay Area.
Nah,
to
the weather's
Chicago.
warmer here than in the Bay Area, anyhow.
And it's much cheaper here now.
Well, that too.
Yeah, so
How crazy is that feeling? Like I remember, like in my 20s, Chicago was considered one of the more expensive cities. And ever since Silicon Valley became the thing, I look at like how much ththings are price wise different in San Francisco. I'm like, what the?
it's nuts. My brother lives in the city and rents like over $4,500. It's such an interesting dichotomy because you have the Gilded Age of tech. The tech bros are invading and everything like that, and you have San Francisco's sort of history of inclusion. It's a huge homeless population there that putting up like tent cities by these buildings that are getting charged insane amount for rent. The real estate.
The
things.
disparity is
It's really telling.
bizarre.
Yeah, and
I go out to. Well, actually, okay. I usually fly into Oakland, mind you, because those tickets are definitely cheaper. But yeah, I go out to like Berkeley on the regular because my friend and mentor Riley Bodycomb, that's where he's teaching right now.
Yeah.
So yeah, like
another leg locker, dirty leg locker.
dirty leg locker. Yeah. Clearly.
Yeah, I spent I got undergrad degree in Berkeley and law school degree, so it was.
Oh, you filthy liberal!
That's crazy. It was hard not to swing to the left politically. I know this is not a politics podcast, but Berkeley is.
It's okay to say it here and there.
Yeah.
Can't overdo it.
One crazy story about Berkeley because it's known for protests. It's birth of the free speech movement. It's graduating undergrad 2000, and what was her name? The Secretary of State during Thatcher, during the mid-90s.
I am the worst person to ask this.
Anyway, she came to speak at our commencement, and knowing that it was Berkeley, they did full body searches for everybody. I mean, there's Secret Service everywhere.
Right,
Everyone's
right.
getting patted down. Any sign was getting thrown away because they knew that Berkeley's known for protesting, and they didn't want anybody to protest
scene?
this. Yeah, make a scene, and everybody just have a clean commencement. And so what happens in the middle of the speech? 4 or 5 people stand up, take off their shirts, and they have a protest slogan written on their
Can't pat down paint.
Right, it would be like those old MMA fighters that would have like Condom Depot written on their bodies. So you can pat me down all you want, but you didn't check that I had condomdepot.com written on my. So I was like, oh, this is just classic Berkeley. You can't keep them from protesting, and it's been pretty wild. Apparently, I just read about the stuff that's going on now with, Antifa and all these protests, and
It's bizarre to me.
I know it's reported about. I'm usually there for like 3 days at a time. I've never had any real serious issues or anything.
you just working on how to be dirty in jiu-jitsu.
Dirty. Well, hey, I compete in more than just jiu-jitsu. I need to know other things. Yeah, so.
And here's a crazy story about Bay Area Jiu-Jitsu is because I grew up in the Bay Area. I have my best friend from high school. He trained with Half Gracie.
I knew you were going to say Half. He's strong there. Yeah.
His older brother got blue belt, purple belt from Half, and the way he was telling me the stories about how the training was back then.
Oh, how rough it was?
45 minutes to an hour of cardio. You're dead tired, and then the way
Now it's time to do
now it's time to go for the business, and the way they sparred was just it was like survival of the fittest, from what I'm told. Half hated leg locks, and just to think about where we've come as a sort of sport and the competition wise, where there was a certain sect of the Brazilian culture, jiu-jitsu culture that looked down on leg locks, looked down on wrist locks. Things like that, so we're cheap.
Yeah, sitting right there in this chair right here. Hates wrist locks.
Me, I don't hate wrist locks at all.
Listen, man, I had my Facebook memories come up the other day because it was my anniversary and I couldn't remember which one it was, so I had to rewind back and be like, was last year the 15th anniversary? Or so I'm scrolling through, and as I'm looking at like wedding anniversary memories from like the past, I don't know how many years of Facebook time, I also see like memes from Paul making fun of you. Don't wrist lock me, bro. Wrist lock proof bracelets and all that shit. Yeah, that was just a couple years ago. You were very anti wrist lock. Have you grown and matured?
I wasn't anti wrist lock. I was
Anti-Paul
wrist
locking
lock.
me.
Yeah, Paul Maloney, don't wrist lock me. Yeah,
Has he stopped doing that, or does he still?
yeah, because now
Now he's going to listen to this, be reminded. And he's like, I'm bringing it back.
now I'm aware that he goes for it. So now I don't. It's just after he starts rolling with Mineko does it to him. He's like, oh, I'm gonna start doing it to Zito.
Shit rolls downhill.
Yeah, exactly right. And I'm like, dude, stop fucking wrist locking me, you fucker.
But he did it.
Yeah, exactly. That's what he says.
So it's just so interesting because to me, I think leg locks, especially in no-gi, that's changed the game completely. And the way the sport is competition-wise, it looks like if you have a good leg lock game, especially in no-gi, you're a step ahead.
Even in the gi, Mikey won worlds in 12 seconds with a leg lock. That was a serious leg lock.
Yeah, you could tell from the. I mean,
if you're in the finals of worlds and you're tapping to anything, it's in.
Right.
Like it's in.
Right.
Yeah, 100%. Right.
So.
You got to get that in because it's more technical in the gi.
Yeah. If only he knew his grips, he might have been able to stall him with strength.
Yeah, so that listening to those stories, it's nuts because when I talked to my Professor Andre, about how you have to tailor the warm-ups differently for the American consuming audience, because Half probably didn't care. This is just how they were.
You do it or you leave.
Right? Yeah, I don't go ahead.
Oh,
if you can't hack it.
We've talked to a lot of the old school guys, like even just locally, and like they all basically sell. They're like thank God they made it through that proving ground because they wouldn't be here today. So lost so much potential business, so many guys,
much revenue,
so many guys that probably would have made it to black belt if one or two little things were changed. But like people were very set in their ways, and
I mean, I hope that moving forward as the newer black belts start, promoting that they stick with that old, that mentality of like, earn it. Like, I just hope it doesn't get ever watered down.
Yeah.
Well, it's already. I mean, certain things have already been watered down.
I agree.
I'm not.
I
I'm
agree
not
with
calling
that.
any one person out here. I'm
But
just saying.
I just hope we're not. I hope it never gets to a point where we're having like,
When was the last time you were
10-year-old
punched in the
black
face in
belts.
jiu-jitsu? Like, and not by a spazzy white belt either. I'm
No,
just to clarify.
I've never been punched in the face.
Okay, because
Need, yes.
yeah, that doesn't count. That was
No
a
one's
spazzy white
ever
belt type
punched
moment,
me.
right?
No, that wasn't a white belt.
Oh, okay. Spazzy blue belt? Was it Paul Maloney?
No.
Did you have the gi on?
I did have the gi on.
Ah, it didn't save you.
Did not say
Where's
that.
your-
I
where's
got
your technical gi
got
knee block there?
Yeah, knee in the side of the head.
Regardless, sorry. No, but like, because that was like a critical element in the very, very beginning. Like, it was so deeply tied with
Self-defense.
yeah,
and
self-defense, and also, the UFC was bringing everyone in. So
Vale Tudo.
that Vale Tudo NHB mentality,
Yeah.
was a big thing early on. Where, I mean, almost everyone I know that like started back in the mid '90s still. Whether they teach it in class very often or not, still remembers like going out through like basic punch defense on the feet, how to take a guy down when he's trying to strike with you, how to block punches from guard, how to throw punches from mount, all that stuff. And like, I go to classes where it's like, oh, no one knows how to do that because we're just here for sport jiu-jitsu.
Right.
And I'm not training MMA. I don't need that.
Right.
And it's like, well, sure, you can have those as separate programs, and you can choose not to study that stuff,
Exactly.
of course. But that in and of itself is changing the game a lot.
Yes. I
Yeah, like
agree
you can
with
get
that.
a black belt now without knowing
Without knowing how to defend a single
Right.
punch, and that is
Yeah.
technically possible.
And you can also get a black belt just in no gi, without even putting a gi on.
Right.
Right.
Which is like, and here I am, brown belt and no-gi. But, like that is kind of a weird thing to me in a way. Not that it shouldn't be, but like it's definitely, when I started grappling, like while jiu-jitsu guys definitely did stuff outside of the gi, and it was mainly Vale Tudo training, there was no no-gi worlds.
Right.
Like if you were a serious no-gi competitor, it's because you competed at Abu Dhabi. Like it was an entirely different thing, and you could compete at Abu Dhabi without having any belt rank in jiu-jitsu at all. There were sambo and wrestlers and judoka.
Yeah.
Like it was like a mixed martial arts strictly for grappling back then. Mm-hmm. So yeah, like it is kind of a weird thing that now jiu-jitsu has these two very, very distinct paths. And
Do you think the people who get, I'm just thinking business-wise, do you think the people who get belted in no-gi who are strictly, that's all they do is just no-gi, do you think it limits them from opening up their own academies where it's not related to 10th Planet? Where it's just
No,
like,
I mean,
where it's like, I'm opening up, this is my jiu-jitsu academy, but I don't really don't own any gi. I could just do no-gi.
okay, so first of all, we're talking as experienced practitioners that already know what we like to do. Mm-hmm. When you're coming in off the street with no experience, what do you care?
I agree. But, I'm looking, for me personally, if I want, because I'm seriously considering opening my own gym in the future for
Sure.
retirement and
Yeah.
stuff like that. Just, I love jiu-jitsu. I see, I'm not going to stop doing
You're going
it.
to line it with gis.
Probably
Gis
have,
on every wall.
All
This
gi.
is the show you roll wall here. I can't believe we both said that, but clearly that's true.
So I look at like what I'm doing now. I'm investing into my future business, my future this. I do gi and I do no gi.
Mm-hmm.
For someone who doesn't have those options, who goes to a strictly no gi school, do you think that options then off the table? Are they not thinking about that, or now they're they're in purple belt and they're just been doing no gi this whole time? All of a sudden they're like, well, I think I would like to open my own gym. Oh, but I don't want it to just be a 10. I say 10 Planet because 10 Planet is the only gym I know that does strictly no gi.
Right.
So I don't want it to be 10 Planet. I want to have my own school, but now I gotta go back and learn the gi.
Well, okay, so let's break this down. First of all, 10th Planet isn't the only no-gi affiliation, but it is probably the biggest no-gi jiu-jitsu affiliation. Almost everyone else who's like dedicated no-gi probably isn't calling what they do jiu-jitsu. Okay, so like luta libre guys, that's an entirely separate art that is no-gi grappling.
Okay.
Catch wrestling, same thing. Entirely separate art, no-gi grappling. These can be successful programs just fine on their
Okay.
own. I think especially in this era, like when you can be like, yeah, I'm a multiple-time black belt world champion in no-gi, you have just as much to say for yourself as somebody who's like, well, I'm a multiple-time world champion in gi, especially to somebody that doesn't know anything about it.
Right.
You know, so like, and again, like when you're coming in off the street, you're looking for a martial arts program to get in shape or learn self-defense or whatever those reasons are. You're not like, you know, like, I really like what you're doing here, but I'd
really like to put on pajamas.
yeah, like actually, to be fair, I've absolutely met people that are into the look of it. This is not directed at you at all. They're like into the look
You
and
mean
like
buy show-year-old gis and then leave them in their closet? Don't
yeah,
even
well,
open it?
there's that. I don't understand that either. But no, like the I shouldn't say the look even like that aspect of like, oh, you're gonna wear a nice crisp white gi with this belt. It's gonna be very formed. Like they have an idea of what martial arts is supposed to be, and it's largely informed by like this impression of what like judo and karate are from movies. So like I definitely know some people that are into that. I don't know, like that essence of the martial arts. So they would probably be looking for something classical like that. And that could be karate or taekwondo or judo or jiu-jitsu, and would serve much the same purpose in that regard because they're looking for this rigid discipline and these neat pressed uniforms and whatnot. But if you're looking for like just, you know, like I'm just looking to get in shape, have a rough and tumble good time, whatever it may be,
Right.
like you're going to get that from a lot of different places. And I don't think it's going to really matter.
And see, what I've gathered from being around the academy for a little 5 years and now being an assistant instructor is that I like to ask people, how'd you find out about us? Because there's so many options. I mean, you guys are 4 blocks away. There's Carlson Gracie. There's Viana Brothers. And I ask a lot of people, like, well, how'd you find us? Is it because Professor Hernet's won the world 7 times and ADCC 3 times? A lot of
Like,
times
I don't even know what an ADCC is.
Right. A lot of times it's like it's convenence. So it's like
I saw it on my drive home.
Right. I googled jujitsu and you guys showed up. You know, and that's not to say that's a bad thing, but I think a lot of people do what's convenient, do what's closest. Especially since you find students that leave because of convenience and everything like that. Because if you have kids, especially, you know, and you're traveling too far to the academy, we could totally understand you just going to some place that's close because it might not be the fact that you wear a gi or you don't wear a gi. It's, you know, you're getting the same sort of concepts, and if you're a beginner, the convenience might matter more to you than actually what you're being offered. So what you're saying, I think, might apply more to, like he was saying, experienced grapplers. Like, oh, this is only a no-gi school, so I can't get my full training there. Or this is an MMA school. They only have 4 or 5 class options with gi. So that's what, you know, a more educated consumer of the product.
You already know what you want, kind of.
Right.
But for beginners, I would imagine, and kids, it would just be, hey.
Yeah, I'm doing this thing. It's fun.
Right, it's fun. And it's
Exactly.
it's right down the street.
Exactly.
You know, so.
But here's another thought, and this is not the case. Okay, but I'm gonna exaggerate the reality, or I'm gonna exaggerate the story to enforce my opinion here.
Okay.
So let's say hypothetically there was this city of like a bajillion people out on the East Coast. Let's call it New York. Okay, and in this hypothetical city of New York, you could have 2 of the greatest dens of jiu-jitsu ever, just blocks apart from each other. We could say one of them could be called like the Marcelo Garcia Academy, and they could be known for some of the finest gi jiu-jitsu that the world has ever seen, despite the fact that their namesake champion and father figure is actually well known for murdering people in no-gi.
Considered one of the greatest no-gi practitioners.
Of all time.
This is an awesome story.
This
so
is
far. So
the
far, it's
most brilliant
amazing.
The
hypothetical
names
story
make
ever.
a lot of sense too.
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy.
Garcia. No greater Portuguese name than that.
It's amazing. It's amazing. Keep going.
And then
I'm
down
interested.
the way, you could have this place that is called the Henzo Gracie Academy.
Ooh, I like that one too.
Henzo with an R.
Renzo Gracie to the uninformed, but we are educated folk here, sir. And in this blue basement, you could have some of the finest collected no-gi submission grapplers that have just torn the world asunder with how great they are, led by this I don't know, we'll give him an accent. He can look a bit like Dr. Evil.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah, we'll call him John. We need a strong last name. John Donaher.
Okay, I'm on board with that. A little
Yeah.
strange, but okay.
Yeah.
Not as good as the Marcelo Garcia.
Right,
name.
clearly. And we'd have these two gyms that represent wildly different approaches to a jiu-jitsu curriculum.
Okay.
You know, a heavy focus on the IBJJF and gi competition, and then right next to them, a heavy focus on no-gi, and both could be technically excellent with some of the finest instructors the world has ever seen. And they're going to both do totally fine.
Yeah, totally fine.
Totally fine. In fact, if I remember correctly, Henzo's has like the highest enrollment of any gym like in the world.
In the world.
Yeah.
Wow.
And now they do have a gi program, and they also teach Muay Thai and other things there. Don't get me wrong. They have a kids program and whatnot too.
Of course.
But like, if you ask people right now, like, hey, if you had to go to Marcelo's or Henzo's, what would you rather do? I'm pretty sure most of the no-gi guys, knowing, if they know, are going to be like, oh, I'm going to go to Henzo's. Rolls Gordon Ryan and, all these other guys that are, top tier no-gi guys. And the gi guys are going to be like, oh, I'm going to Marcelo's, man. like Paul Schreiner, Marcelo Garcia, Gianni Grip, all these great guys are there. Be the best time ever. Yeah. And like I said, those are right down the street from each other. Both very successful academies. Yeah. Like brilliantly successful academies in terms of like the volume of students.
Sure. What do you think their turnaround rate is?
I don't want to speculate that, but like,
I think it's high. Think it's a high turnaround.
Yes.
Yeah. Right.
Because I think most gyms have a relatively high turnaround.
It's just the way it is.
Yeah.
Right?
There's probably somebody out there who's like got like 97% retention.
A super gym like you're describing. I mean, we're talking thousands of students, right?
Yeah, Henzo's literally has thousands.
So
Over 1,000,
you know
right?
how it is.
Yeah.
In our academies are relatively small compared to LCCT is pretty larger than both.
Physically
one. Yeah,
larger.
physically larger.
Yeah. I mean, but I don't know what relative student body sizes
I don't know
are.
either.
Nobody ever actually has all their students show up at once unless there's like a belt promotion
Even
or
then they don't
seminars.
show up. Even then
well,
they don't
true,
show
but
up.
I'm like you can't truly appreciate how many people you have until you get them all in the room and go, they won't all fit.
Right. Yeah. So I see how it is at our school. If we when we get someone new in, they're there for like 6-7 months, and you're like, "Fuck, this guy's gonna be a killer." And all of a sudden
they leave.
They're gone.
Right.
You're like, what the fuck happened to that? What the fuck happened to that dude? And then it's like, what guy? Remember that guy used to come? Yeah, I don't remember. He had that one thing.
That's why I don't bother learning people's
right?
names.
Exactly. Right.
Yeah.
But in a school like there's got to be so many like cliques. You know what I mean? Like little cliques inside.
I mean, I find that in
thousands.
normal jiu-jitsu anyhow.
Right.
It tends to happen. Just once we get a certain volume of people, there's like, oh, those guys like to train together all the time because
Right.
similar game or
Yeah.
just they're the same size, came up together, whatever it may be. Yeah. So yeah, I feel like that happens almost no matter what. It's totally possible, even in a pretty small club, to have like another guy who's like, I don't know, like I've never met that purple belt ever before in my life. Well, why is that? Well, because he only comes on Wednesdays and I'm here on Tuesdays and Thursdays.
Right.
Like that can totally happen.
That does happen.
Yeah. So like you magnify that by a much wider volume of people.
Right.
Yeah. I gotta assume there's probably whole segments of the Henzo crew that have no idea who any of the people are that like do the gi classes.
Yeah,
for
like
example.
you go to a class at Henzo's, you're meeting a new person probably every time.
Probably.
would
Yeah,
imagine
I mean,
that.
there's definitely going to be some regulars, just like there's regulars
Sure.
at every gym, every class. But yeah, like for sure, there's like the time we were there, we stupidly went in on like a Monday morning class where like a whole bunch of non Henzo Gracie Academy headquarters people were there. So like all the affiliates were in from the other schools and whatnot to get in that specific day of training. So it was like we were swamped. Like the whole basement was full. There was hardly any room to work. Okay.
How big is this basement? I think
it's a good size.
We're talking like 2,000 square feet.
So
5,000 square feet.
So when you get to RGA, you go down that set of stairs. Okay, like the upstairs has like this Muay Thai cage area, actually, if I recall correctly. But you go down the set of stairs, and if I remember, on the left, there's a section of mats that is mostly, I guess, used for the gi program, and then to the right is the blue basement. They're both blue, actually, but that's where Danaher teaches.
Okay.
And I don't know if there's crossover where it's like, oh, John's not teaching, so we'll use this side or anything like that.
How big is it?
Decent size, like
How many pairs of people rolling can you get in there? That's how I imagine basing it.
I'm trying to envision it because I feel like there were like 100 people on the mat that day.
Yeah, that's huge.
But it was also like pretty crowded.
Yeah.
so I don't know how
100
much.
people.
I don't know how much.
I know what 40 people in our school looks like.
Right.
And that's
Yeah.
crowded.
Right. I think it's like just Mineko's might actually be longer in terms of total length of the mat space, but Henzo's is definitely wider.
Okay.
I can show you a picture, and you might be able to get a decent
Yeah.
idea of it because the picture I have it gives some sense of depth, but it's actually not at any one corner.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm sorry. I'm good at spatial understanding in terms of like this could fit into there. I'm not so good at being like, yeah, that's 1,000 square feet, you know. But yeah, what were we talking about before that? Before I embarrassed myself, with my inability to
Just
tell you how
talking
big
about-
Henzo's is.
Open
Zito had
schools and stuff
asked
like that.
about whether or not if he's starting an academy, if
Oh,
it
yeah,
was just
yeah.
one
So
thing he was,
I don't feel like that would be a major detriment. Here's the thing where it does get tricky, though. I think people look for certain things. So, like, jiu-jitsu is, like, the hot topic for a lot of people and has been for a while now. Krav Maga is pretty popular and whatnot, too. If you're, like, teaching some obscure style, like, you're going to run into trouble.
Yeah.
Like, if I opened up a gym down the way from one of the major academies and I opened up a jiu-jitsu gym, I'll probably draw in way more people, even competing with other major academies, than if I opened up a Sambo gym that's not competing with anyone.
Right,
Because people are actually looking for jiu-jitsu more so.
Right,
and they're like,
right.
Sambo, what's that?
fuck's that?
Is this
Yeah.
a dance studio?
It's true. Man.
I'd get a lot of very disappointed Russians. like Russians and Ukrainians, they'd come in, they'd be like, oh, thank God, Sambo. It's some freaking Mexican kid. This is terrible. Yeah.
How long have you been training Sambo?
Basically the same amount of time that I've been training, like formally training jiu-jitsu. So 2012 is when I really I had some exposure to it. Like, oddly enough, the first person that I ever learned leg locks from had learned them from a friend who was a wrestler that had gone over to Russia, and that dude had cross-trained a little bit with some Sambo athletes, like, you know, and that was all he had brought back. He had brought back, like, how to do a knee bar, how to do an ankle lock, and oddly enough, how to do a heel hook, which isn't legal in Sambo, but somebody
really?
had showed him. So anyhow, I didn't know what it was back then. So my buddy's like, hey, let me show you these Sambo leg locks. I'm like, leg locks? That sounds cool as hell. And I knew what they were because I had been like a pro wrestling fan, and I had seen like Ken Shamrock and other guys do things in MMA. So I knew they existed, but I didn't know how to do any of them at the time.
Best
really.
leg lock is the figure 4 from Ric Flair. I'm sorry.
I love that.
It had a 100% submission rate.
Right. Damn near. Yeah. I'll show you the reversal of that one day. Right. Yeah. Not just the rope break either. But yeah, so my buddy showed me these 3 Sambo leg locks, and I was like, oh, that's really cool. So I started researching it, and I reached out and trained like at seminars and would catch people like when they would come in town, oddly enough, to train catch wrestling with us. I worked with some Sambo guys there. So I had some exposure to it, nothing that I would really call real training, but I had a greater idea of what it was, and you know.
And you
done some
knew
research
if it
on
was easy, it would be called jiu-jitsu?
Yeah. that was actually my immediate thought. I was like, it's hard, man.
So
Thank
Paul,
God you don't call it jiu-jitsu.
Are you currently a lawyer?
Yeah, I've been a lawyer
That was
for
a
16
strange
years.
shift
Yeah, it's a
there.
nice segue.
You know, I was thinking about it in my head, and I'm like, all right, Javi's talking for a very long time right now.
That's true.
So we gotta get him off this.
I've been
Sorry,
a lawyer
Hop.
for 16 years in the city.
16 years.
16 years.
Wow.
Did the law firm thing for about 6 years in my 20s, and now I do a little subset of the law called document review. It allows me to have a very flexible training schedule. Yeah. So it's one of those jobs where you don't need to be in, like, everybody has to be in by 9. You know, you set your own hours, you get your 40 hours in. You know, it allows me to train every day at 6:30. And honestly, for me, I started to see not just the changes in my life, but the changes in my jiu-jitsu game really start sort of expediting when I trained in the morning. Everything started shifting, you know, because when I first started, I was training at the Nighttime Fundamentals, and we lived a long way from the academy at the time. But say you do a fundamentals class. It gets over at 8:15. You shoot the shit on the mat for about 15 more minutes, which is one of my favorite things to do after jiu-jitsu.
Only 15 minutes?
15, 30 minutes, depending on how...
You're saying 15 because the wife might be listening.
Depending on when they want to kick you out. And then you shower, it's 9 o'clock. You get home, it's 9:30. You eat because you're hungry. You just burned over 1,000 calories. Right. And the next thing you know, it's midnight. And once I started coming to the morning class, and one of the things I love about 021 is that we have 6:30 a.m. class every day of the week. And there's not many academies in the city or in the suburbs, I think, that even have that as an option. And there's a certain mindset, a certain type of person that trains at 6:30. Like we have a lot of like guys in the financial industry, doctors, lawyers.
Get in, get out.
Get in, get out,
Yeah.
you know, and they're, you know, they don't want to waste their time when they get in, you know, 6:30. It's like, it takes a different kind of animal to wake up, you know, that early every day. When I was a blue belt, we were living in Wrigleyville. I was waking up at 4:45 because I had to take 2 buses down there. And so when you start waking up like that, and of course, you know, I love Jocko Willink.
I was just going to make a Jocko reference. I'm glad you did first.
You know, one of the quotes, and I'm paraphrasing here, he's like, when you wake up this early, you're just ahead of the game. You're ahead of the enemy. And he always couches it in military terms. But I started to feel that. And that's when my game started really progressing. Was you're in there with super intense people who are waking up this early, and it sets everything else in place because now you're not gonna I'm not gonna party as much. I'm not gonna get drunk on a Tuesday night. I want to train the next morning, and then you're eating a lot earlier in the day as opposed to, you know, at midnight. Before bed. And if you have some carbs, it might stick with you. So then the diet starts becoming better, and everything just started falling into place for me. And so that's why I've kept this job as a lawyer. It's very flexible. I dig the hours, the flexibility and whatnot. And it's something that, you know, I'm not going to lie, it's not my passion. And I've thought about, just like you, in the future, now that I'm an assistant instructor, maybe running my own academy. I'd be able to still do law, you know, as a 9-to-5, but you know, I want to be involved in jiu-jitsu as much as possible, and you know, I see the positive impact it's had on my life and other people's lives, and I want to be around it forever. So, you know, you start tailoring things to help your jiu-jitsu, and when the 021 moved to Chicago Avenue and Damon in 2016, I nudged my wife. I was like, you know, when our lease is up, we should look around there. And she's like, as long as this doesn't mean that you're at the academy all the time, which I guess ends up being true now that I'm an assistant instructor, but she ended up liking the neighborhood, and what we were saying about convenience, we live a block and a half away now. And so that adds like 45 minutes to an hour of sleep every day for me, instead of having to go on the bus and then
spend more time at home.
Spend your time, exactly,
as opposed to traveling.
It sounds like the negotiation with my wife now. Hey, like, we're closer to downtown.
This is where your law degree really comes in.
Exactly. I'm
fantastic.
Let's put it on the table. Here's my proposal. We should move a block away from the academy. Here's why. You'll like it. And you know what we were talking about earlier about, you know, starting a business in jiu-jitsu and what attracts people to academies is when you get into a place that's very residential. You guys probably noticed that at your academy. It's like, oh, this family lives over there and they want to have a martial, you know, they put their kids in martial arts. They don't know anything. They don't know what the difference between jiu-jitsu and judo is. They just see people wearing pajamas and the kids running around having a good time and being in a great neighborhood like the ones our academies in. You know, it's just taken off for 021 since the move to Chicago and Damon, because before that they were running the academy out of Symmetry Center down in River North. It's on Ontario, right by the expressway, and it's really hard sometimes to build the academy up when you're in a space, you're renting space from you know, a different owner. A lot of times you might have to rely on word of mouth. Here, when we're sparring at night, 7 p.m., people are going to restaurants.
right
People
past.
walk in, and then you might get a drunk guy like, "Hey, I wrestled once."
Yeah.
We've all had that.
You know, so and then you see people, you know, walk by with their kids. Kids get mesmerized when you see
Sure.
when they see sparring. The Street Fest, I'm sure you guys do something
Yeah.
for West Fest, and that's another good example of just being in the right place at the right time, because a lot of people just get exposed to jiu-jitsu now and they've heard it. Maybe they listen to the Joe Rogan podcast. That's another way that jiu-jitsu has sort of been at the forefront now
Yeah.
of pop culture, because everybody knows, oh, Joe Rogan's mentioned jiu-jitsu before.
A
and-
batillion times.
Yes,
Yeah.
between probably the Rogan podcast and the UFC, those are two of the usual, like, I heard about it but I don't know what it is kind of experiences where I'll talk to somebody that come into the academy and they're like, yeah, I've been wanting to do jiu-jitsu for a long time. I've been listening to Rogan for like 2 years. I finally got off my duff and tried it. You know, like that. I can't count, and not even just 10th. Like we had a lot of guys from 10th Planet, especially that would come in and try it for that. But I get that at all the academies. Like all the academies that I train at, there's at least one guy who's like, yeah, no, I was a Rogan fan, and now I'm
Rogan,
here.
yeah.
So I assume it just happens constantly all over, whether guys are telling that story to us or not. That happens a lot.
That's awesome. I mean, he's a huge ambassador for it.
For sure.
You know, a lot of in this country, I always say one of the best ambassadors that we all know is Seth Daniels, because what he's done for spreading jiu-jitsu just to local markets, doing Fight to Win is you know, he's just.
No, Seth has absolutely changed the game.
He has changed it a lot,
Yeah.
because it's just, you know, allowing a local purple belt, a local brown belt to feel like a big time deal and walk out on the stage in front of all their fans. You know, it changes everything. The flow grappling thing changes everything too, because now, you know,
I'm
family
still,
far away.
Still very much of two minds on the flow grappling thing, but yeah, it is an awesome service when everything's working right.
Did you know that if you look up our fight, it doesn't come up on Flow?
That's because they got your names wrong, right?
Did you notice
I don't know if you know Alex Seaver, but
I did.
Yeah, you guys.
you have to click on Alex's
I know.
match.
I
Yeah,
know.
so
Isn't that weird?
It's super weird.
I
don't
never
know how-
emailed them regarding it. I was
Yeah.
like, fuck it. I lost. It doesn't really matter to me. But you should email them. Be like, hey, bro, fix my shit, man.
Who did Alex fight? I can't even remember who.
Garcia trains with Nick Spacek, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah.
Really
Okay.
tough.
Well,
purple
between the
belt
four
there.
of you, you guys should get that fixed. It's a
Flow grappling, are you
hyperlink. Come
listening?
on, man.
I don't know
Yeah,
about
yeah.
sometimes flow grappling. If you've noticed their Instagram posts, they don't have a copy editor. They'll have grammatical errors
Yeah.
on the regular.
It's possible they have an editor and he's just stunningly incompetent.
English is a second language.
There's guys who passed college at D level, and there's guys that passed. He might be at the DC level. That's all.
So, funny story. Me and my buddy, years and years ago, we wanted to write comic books together.
Shocking.
I was
I'm not
the,
shocked at all.
I was the writer. He was the artist.
Okay.
Perfect combination here.
Yes.
So we finally did it. You know, just a couple of years ago, and I was, without my approval, mind you. So this is how much I was an editor. Without my approval, he listed me as like lead editor,
Okay.
and next to that, he misspelled my name. And because I wasn't actually the editor on the book, I didn't catch
You didn't
that
get
my
a chance
own
to
name
edit
was
it.
misspelled. So that is the perfect prime example.
Is this comic book out right now?
I mean, I don't have any on me right now, but yeah.
What's it called?
Wrist locks and friends.
How did you know? It's called the Launchpad.
And what's it about?
So, God, we should have talked about this in the last episode.
Why?
Because he's a hyper vocal libertarian that runs a libertarian podcast, and he wanted to do a comic book featuring libertarian ideals and sort of like superheroes with like a space, like an old school.
How many copies have you sold?
Like me personally?
No, how many? How many
Oh,
have you sold?
I don't know how many have been sold.
Is
in
it out
Grand
on like
Total.
at
Yeah,
comic
yeah, you
book
can go-
stores?
No, not really at stores. Like
You need
you
to be
order it
plugging
online.
in more. Plugging in more on this podcast.
mean, I didn't really want them to cross over. These are my separate lives.
Oh, okay. You,
Yeah.
you segment.
But,
I
but
see.
yeah,
you compartmentalize.
Compartmentalize your
That's
friends,
it.
right?
very much so.
These are my weird
Yes.
jujitsu friends.
Yes.
Here
Yeah,
are my nerdy comic
I don't
friends.
introduce my gamer friends, my jiu-jitsu friends,
They don't
unless
cross.
the gamers
Right, yeah.
play,
Right.
do jiu-jitsu.
There's
A lot
no
of your
overlap,
gamers play
huh?
jujitsu though. A lot of your gamer friends. are
Yeah,
jiu-jitsu.
quite a few of my like a shockingly large number of dudes that I know that are like diehard gamers also do jujitsu.
Yeah.
And then there's a ton of jujitsu guys that like, where it comes up and I'm like, oh yeah, you do this as well. So yes, a lot of nerd assassins.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
To steal another word from Joe Rogan. I need to get into this gamer stuff. I saw a headline about some kid that won $3 million playing
That's
Fortnite.
okay. That's esports level gaming. That's a
That's
slightly
different-
different
million.
$3 million. Yeah.
Whoa.
Hey, he's like 16.
16
right?
years old.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah, and then there was some other gamer like dumped the hottest weather person in the because he wanted to focus
is
on
that
video
that, is
games.
that
yeah.
Garcia chick?
Yeah.
With a giant ass.
She was all
Wait,
over the memes, the weather memes.
She was dating an esports guy.
Well, because he's making like $3 million a year. Man.
No, I didn't realize. So I had heard that story like secondhand, but
Yeah.
I didn't realize it was Yannette Garcia's or
Yeah,
Something like
Jeanette.
that. Yeah.
yeah, something like that. Yeah,
And his quote was, I'm paraphrasing again, but like, I need to focus on my
career.
Yeah. It's like 20 something.
Wait, what?
to be fair, she does look quite distracting.
Right.
Yeah, I can see why this might be an
Can't
issue.
focus around her. Right? She's
Can
always
you
telling
move
me
your
the
ass
weather.
away from
Right.
my screen, please. Yes. It's too
that-
distracted.
I'm gonna fuck up the quote, but like, no matter how beautiful a woman is,
There's always somebody tired. Yeah.
tired of her
That
shit.
would explain Halle Berry, right?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I suppose.
Explain a lot of people.
A lot. Yes.
But yeah, no, I had no idea that she was the person involved in
Yeah.
that, but I definitely heard about that secondhand. But yeah, so esports is kind of like a different thing. Like that's all PC computer gaming at a very, very
Gotcha.
high level and very specific games. So like Fortnite, back in the day, I don't think they do it as much anymore, but like StarCraft, things like that.
But you do more like Magic the Gathering.
I play Magic the Gathering, Dungeons and Dragons,
Right,
games like that. I do. I mean, I play video games, but nowhere near the amount of dedication that it takes to be like a true.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people hate the term, but like an esport athlete, is commensurate with the amount of dedication it would take to be like a world champion in jiu-jitsu.
Okay.
Like
You have to commit to it.
Yeah, you're not like
Dump your hot weather girl.
Right, clearly, yeah.
Right.
Like, it's not like, hey man, you want to come over and play some Halo later on the big screen? Like it's no, like this is my schedule. This is how much I'm working out this day. I've got to do finger exercises later on to avoid carpal tunnel.
Yeah.
Like you got to take that shit seriously.
Yeah.
Maybe not everyone takes it quite that seriously, but you know what I'm saying.
I guess.
Yeah, and I know this because I had to talk one of my kids down from that being his
Really?
chosen
His
career path, and like Dad had to be like, listen, you are not good enough at video games to
played
make it
you.
your
You're
living.
terrible.
Well, I'm kidding. I didn't break it quite that hard, but yes, that is true. Yeah,
But what about that one time I let you win?
Exactly.
my kids and I will occasionally bust out like some Mortal Kombat or some Street Fighter.
Yeah, I like Mortal Kombat. I remember my friends and I used to play 007 back in the day.
Yeah, the
GoldenEye
shooter
on-
games.
on the
Yeah.
N64. Yeah.
It's crazy.
On like a freaking, I don't even know how big the little itty bitty TVs and
Split four ways, right?
Split four ways,
Yeah.
and we're like our chairs are like just around his
Kids
kitchen,
kids
and we
don't
didn't give
even
a
know.
fuck.
Yeah, they have no idea, right?
Yeah,
They have
they're
no idea.
I'm gonna go play some co-op games with a buddy. What do you mean? I'm going to my room, Dad. I'm gonna log into to Steam and play with my friends
And
who
you're like,
aren't
in my
from
day,
this country.
We played Pong. Entertain ourselves, and then what was the first shooting game on Atari that came out? Oh, frick, I don't remember it.
On Atari,
Yeah.
the one with the Space Invaders.
Yeah, the Space Invaders.
That was
That's right.
good.
Yeah,
I like
the
that.
old school games.
Pitfall was fun. That
Yeah.
was awesome.
Pitfall was torture.
Pitfall was fun.
That was a
No, it
hard
was fun.
game.
It was
man.
hard. It was
That was
great.
back like. So my little son, my youngest one, I got him into Mega Man.
Oh yeah, okay.
And Mega Man's a tough game compared to like a lot of the games of today.
Okay.
There's no hand holding.
Right.
You can look online and like the best boss order to win it, but if you can't like jump the platforms to get to it, it's just endless controller throwing frustration. And like He actually, I think he wanted to beat them out of order because he heard like Mega Man 3 was easier than, Mega Man 2 was easier than 1. I'm like, no, you will do them in release order the way I did. None of this taking the easy route. You're lucky I let you watch YouTube videos on how to beat the bosses. But yeah, so that has shaped him and matured him.
In my day, we used to take the cartridge and blow in it.
Yeah.
They don't even know. They don't know.
No idea.
Yeah.
I mean, they barely sell physical games anymore. Like you can go and buy like a game DVD, but a lot of the games they just download them. You know, who needs to buy a disc?
Yeah.
It's so fascinating.
It's weird. Like you can't not that I was ever the kind of guy that wanted to resell my games, but you can't resell a digital download that you got for your Nintendo Switch. Like you don't like that game anymore. You're stuck with it, or you just delete it off your system.
Right.
Yeah, and then you bring an old game into GameStop and they'll give you like 50 cents.
Get your $3 if you like. Oh, this is a super hot title. We'll give you $4 for it, and we'll resell it for $59.99.
That's interesting. Yeah, I mean, you brought up Halo, and it took me back to law school at Berkeley. We had Halo. I lived in a house with 9 people, so 8 law students, and then we had a friend who was
pull that a little bit across.
Sorry.
There you go.
We had a friend who was who went to college with one of the law students, so we would get together and play the Halo game. And one Friday night, because this is what nerds do on Friday night, we invited some engineering students over, brought down a second TV, and we played 4 on 4 Halo. But once I graduated law school, I'm 23. I just moved to Chicago. I said I got to get rid of all my video games.
No!
Because, I was like, they're distractions.
It's too much distraction.
It's too much of a distraction, and you get frustrated, you get angry, you throw things, and, it's better, I guess, for me to just get rid of them at that point.
I remember when I was in my 20s, and I don't know if I was in my 20s. When did Grand Theft Auto come out?
The original?
Yeah.
Oh, geez, man. Yeah, I don't have my phone on me to check this, but that had to be the 90s.
Late 90s.
Late 90s.
Yeah.
So I remember that was like, oh shit, man, I could sit here all day and fucking just.
Everyone finds that
drain.
game though. Like
that game
there's always a game that can just
right.
eat up all your time.
That was just so cool and just so like different. That and then beating Guitar Hero was a fucking, like I had it.
My kids were into Guitar Hero. I never really got into it. I kind of sucked at it. So
and I've noticed like
probably why
the first person shooter games like Counter-Strike. That was the first time I'd seen my brothers sort of sit there and just play a game for hours and hours. And you've heard these crazy stories of kids in Korea or something just playing for 60 hours straight,
dying.
Yeah, just literally dropping dead.
Wait, what? For
because
real?
they play this game that's so addictive, this first-person shooter game. They sit in the internet cafe and just sit there and play and play and play.
Shit.
They eschew eating and drinking and sleeping. And
to be fair, this does seem to happen a little bit more in like Korea and Japan than anywhere else, and I think that's a part of like proclivities, but also like the culture set up for it a little bit differently.
Especially in Japan, where they have an actual word for working yourself to death, which happens a lot to Japanese. Yeah, they have a
dying at your desk as a corporate wage slave has its own specific term in Japan. I can't remember what the term is offhand, but I've definitely heard it before.
And so Tokyo is a really expensive city, and people live in, because it's so expensive, people end up living in really small places. They spend a lot of time at work and then out in the restaurant. Maybe you only sleep in your little shoebox and shower like that.
See, I'm the worst person about that, because when I went to Japan, that was one of the things I really loved about it.
But imagine that being your everyday,
But it would make me so happy. Everything's so efficiently placed. And
feng shui.
Well, not just the feng shui. Although yes, I felt that that everything was aligned perfectly. Good energy. Now, it was just like okay. You go to I use hotels as a really good example. Yeah. And mind you, again, I'm aware of the fact I'm a tiny person. I'm probably around the average size of a Japanese male. So maybe that's a factor as well. But like when I rent a hotel room, okay, I've got enough room in there, much of it wasted space, where I could like sleep 6 people in there and be totally comfortable. Like you can hang out in a hotel room and have like a little party and you're not tripping over each other. In Japan, No way.
Right.
There's room for the bed. There's a TV stand that you can reach from the bed. You know, you get off on the left side of your bed, and the bathrooms are right over here. The bathroom is tiny, but everything's like conveniently placed, very efficient. You know, there's no wasted space because they don't have it's a tiny
They
island.
don't have it, right?
Exactly. Yeah, you gotta be smart about that kind of stuff.
It's just that America, we just went way off the rails.
Is that
right?
me?
I don't
That
know.
super loud Bing.
I don't know who that was. Could be you.
Yeah, I'll take the
But
blame.
yeah, here in America, we're just everything's bigger,
Yeah.
consume more.
We got a lot of
do-
land mass. We can spread out a lot.
Just like bigger, better, constantly.
Bigger
I was-
meals, bigger portions, bigger people.
I was
bigger
like,
houses.
I was up and I was watching TV.
Oh God, what documentary are we going diving on now?
No documentary. No, I was just the TV was on. Then I fell asleep, and then I woke up, and it was like the channel was still on. It was a History Channel, but what was on was or was Sci-Fi. One of those two.
Fall
It was-
asleep right in the middle of your favorite ancient aliens program.
So, but I didn't realize that like selling stuff at night is still like a huge thing. Like,
Because you don't normally watch TV at like
don't-
3 a.m.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
I woke up, I'm like, what the fuck's this guy selling? He's selling like silver coins, and he's got the most annoying voice. I'm like, this is real. This still happens. Like, I remember back in when I was younger, I see this selling
Infomercial, Ron Popeil or something like
it's
that.
and I'm like, this still like shopping online, like shopping in the TV is still a thing.
It'll
It's
probably
incredible.
die out in the next couple of years as the generation that grew up with that passes on.
Yeah.
But for now, I imagine there's still
Well,
that home
especially
shopping
since-
network era.
Yeah, right.
Especially since cable seems to be not, growing.
Yeah, a
at
whole lot of
all.
people
Like,
cut the
people are
cord.
just cutting the cord.
Right.
Yeah, so this generation is just consuming those kind of products differently. But yeah, back to your point about the difference in this country, the culture-wise. I mean, if you can track the changes in the country that happened after the automobile became ubiquitous, and so then people started leaving cities, and that's when the suburbanization spreading out, bigger space, instead of being cooped up in a city where you're, a lot of times in a densely populated city like New York, you're literally on top of each
It's
other.
like a hive.
Yeah, so that's very interesting too. So because we have so much space, then people, now that I have a child, and people always talk about space, because especially when you have children, Chavi knows that they need space.
That's when I kick them out of the house.
But it has a lot to do with sort of our geography. Having more landmass than Japan, we probably able to sort of focus on let's get the space, and that means that you've made it, right? That you have the space, that you're in a big house,
Right.
that you're-
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's not about where you are culturally or how much diversity you are to a lot of people. Sometimes it's just I need a space, so I'm going to go to Park Ridge.
But now it's like you see all over the place where I did not see when I was younger. Like
You bring up tiny homes?
The store. I've like selling storage is like a thing. Like there's
Yeah.
in just where we are here in this, we have probably more than half a dozen just in this vicinity here, 10-mile radius, less than a 10-mile, more than half a dozen like you store it or space save or renting space. I'm like, I don't remember when I was younger that people like this was a problem. Like you have so much shit you got to rent, and there's so many around this area. It's
and they started
fascinating.
building them up where it used to all be like one level
now-
of garages,
yeah.
and now they're
Now it's
like,
like-
5-story buildings.
So if I need to store some shit, I got to come to Forest Park.
Yeah, Forest
Not
Park.
just Forest Park.
Forest
like-
Park, Berwyn. Yeah, we got it all. There's so much storage. I'm just
yeah,
like, what the fuck are these people? Like, I would think that if I had that much shit where I got to store it in a place and I got to drive to go get, I'm like, I don't need it that bad.
Yeah.
Get rid of this shit.
I can't speak for, but like I remember the first time, because I didn't understand what the concept was at all. The first time I ever saw a commercial for, I believe it was Public Storage was the first company that I'd ever heard of that did it. I'm like, what? what is it? It's a garage that isn't on your property,
Right. That
And
you
I
rent.
mean, I had to be like 15 or something like that, and 12. I don't know, like pretty young.
You're like, people pay for this shit?
Yeah, well, exactly. Like I couldn't fathom it. But then the first time I ever moved out of my house, I was like, maybe we should get a storage place for the time. Yeah, I do have way too much shit. I don't know about you all. I know you're pretty good at reducing. So
I'm reducing, and I'm still reducing, but
it's
it's just
a constant war against consumerism.
you know what? here's the thing. You know, I do like to consume certain things, and I have
your old geese.
Show your old
Show your
geese,
geese,
right?
yeah,
But
for sure.
you know, I'm really looking at things like, so my iPhone's an i7. I got the 7.
Has not blown up on you.
Hasn't
Still
blown
works,
up.
right?
I've done all the updates, and the battery's still good. And my iPad is, I don't know, 3rd or generation, 4th generation. But I'm at a point where it's like, it works, and it's just as fast as it used to be. I'm good. Like, I don't know why we feel the need. Like, obviously, I'm in the tech industry, and sometimes I get a little upset when Windows or Apple, they constantly do these updates, and they do these updates because they're just trying to sell more shit. I'm like, this is just like, I'm good. The iPhone 7 is fast, and I can do everything I want. So what do I need to go spend $1,000+ on a fucking phone just to get a little bit more faster? And no, I'm good. So I think I'm at a point where it's like,
You're at peak technology
I'm
right
at
now.
peak technology. I don't need to be any faster. It's not going to be more efficient if I was a half a second faster. Whereas the jump from like 1 to 4 was pretty big. But now like my computer.
It depends on what I want to do, though. Like I don't. Okay, most of the things that I need to do on a computer in a day-to-day basis are like, or any electronic device, I guess, really, because I do it on my tablet or my phone. But you know, like email, watch some fucking YouTube, maybe write a document or a spreadsheet, most likely on Google Docs or whatnot. You know, not too much more. I'm browsing the internet.
Yeah.
You know, maybe watching a movie, something like that.
right.
Okay, so like that doesn't take much of a machine.
No.
But if I want to play like current gen top of the line games,
Then you're talking something different.
Then yeah, so like there's a situation where it's like
I think the normal person, the normal consumer.
I don't know what normal is.
Yeah. So the
Define
person
this,
who's
please.
out there trying, and this is where they get screwed, and it's so unfortunate. And I
The
see
consumer
all
that Apple relies on.
Yeah,
Apple realize
yeah.
it, that they're like, oh, I'm buying a $4,000 computer, and they don't realize that thing's gonna be so fucked in 2 years. You just threw away $4,000 on not like Apple's computers. They are designed to not last. It's so unfortunate. It's a beautiful product. Yeah, beautiful packaging. Everything is so fucking high end, but it's designed to break down after a couple years.
I get mad if a computer doesn't last me at least 7 years.
Wow.
Yeah, like outright enraged.
Well, first of all, that's ridiculous. But
What are you talking about?
a computer can last. The technology where it's at now and where we were from back in the 90s to this and the trend, where we're at now, solid state drives, the core processing in Intel's and AMD's both are super high end. But that hard drive, that solid state drive jump from SATA to solid state is so huge
Yeah, I know.
that you really, if you're spending,
I can upgrade my
on a
hard
computer.
I can
you're-
upgrade my hard drive separate from the rest of the unit,
Well,
though.
absolutely. That's where you're going to save money. That's where you're going
Right.
to really. do
Yeah, no,
something.
I know how to
Clone
build
your-
computers.
Good. Cloning your hard drive from SATA to solid state, you just add another,
Yeah,
3
it's way
plus
faster.
years. Exactly. And then throw in, Windows 10 now. Yeah, go ahead. You can say it on air, man. We're all good. It's a family. But, doing that is saving years and years and years and years, on your computer. People, the consumers, don't realize that, they just think that when they buy the Dell or they buy what HP or Lenovo, whatever they're buying, it's already coming with all this fucking crap, all these third party
the bloatware.
bloatware,
Yeah,
and
well.
they already got a shitty computer, brand new. You already bought it shit. It's just a way, and they don't realize it, and it's so unfortunate. When my clients, they call me like, "Hey, Luke, I'm gonna buy a new computer. Listen, this is what you need to get," and I explain to them. But there's hundreds of thousands of people out there that obviously I don't know, and they're buying all these shitty computers, and then they
Like a $200 Walmart special.
not even
Or-
that, or they're spending $1,000 plus on a computer, and they thinking, I bought this $25 Apple laptop. Oh, congratulations, you're a complete idiot. Sorry, $25 on a fucking laptop.
I mean, what's it do?
Just ridiculous.
Like for
I
serious.
bought here. I have I have an HP laptop that I bought refurbished for $327.
Okay,
It's Windows 10
but can
Pro.
it play Crisis?
Cannot play video games.
Ah,
But
worthless.
It is worthless. But this laptop, I bought 3 of them just to tell you. because they're so efficient and the battery lasts a long time. Obviously, I know how to treat a laptop to make the battery last longer, but they're very, very efficient laptops. And it was $300-something, and it's amazing. When I hear people spending thousands of dollars on laptops, I just look.
Yeah, but again, it depends on what you want to do.
Well, Apple. What video games are you playing with Apple?
I don't know. I think you gotta.
It's so ridiculous.
Some Apple fan, correct me if I'm wrong, but don't you have to emulate Windows to play a bunch of the games still?
It's unfortunate. I mean, Apple phones. I'm a big fan of Apple phones. I think they're clean, they're neat, and I'm a fan of them. They work very well. I don't agree with some of the technology when they do upgrades, how it slows down the older technologies.
Sure.
That I don't agree with. But for the most part,
yeah, you like their nice, clean design.
Their desktops and their laptops aren't worth the money. No fucking way.
I don't know.
Windows-based PCs are definitely way better for your money. You're going to be able to do
I know a lot of
with
people
them.
that would disagree with you, many of whom work in like graphics design and things like that, but I don't know how much of that is preference on aesthetics versus I know people that do video editing on dedicated on Apple
I think
units.
they drink
It's
the
like
Kool-Aid, to be honest
could
with
be.
you.
Could be. I don't know.
Definitely Kool-Aid. Or they're not, or they're physically not paying for that. Their companies are
Well,
buying it.
there's always that element.
There's
If you
always
get the
that.
boss to pay for it.
I mean, I've had employees here at my company, and
I too will fly first class when I'm not paying for it.
Exactly, right?
You value things differently
And
depending
they're
on how
like,
much you
oh,
pay
I
for
have to
them.
work
Right.
on a Mac. I'm like, all right, fuck. And so I spent the money on it, and I watch them deteriorate, and it's just, I'm like, oh, this might be just this one. No, it's a trend. That's just what they do. You have to just fucking format them after a couple years to get that life back, and then by that time, it's like upgrade, and you can't even break inside them to even do shit to them.
Right.
to upgrade them.
Deliberately designed like
Deliberately
that.
designed.
No, I know.
Yeah. Anyway, I don't know how we got on this tangent. But whatever.
amazing.
Back to jiu-jitsu.
Back to
The
Paul
Tangent
Dell.
Central
So Paul,
podcast.
my foot is doing better. Just by the way, just so you
Awesome.
know.
Good to know.
After I don't know how long ago was our match.
It was a year ago.
Yeah, it's
middle of
finally. I
August.
finally can walk without a limp. Just kidding.
What's
No,
wrong with your soft ass ass?
dude, I'm old. It takes me a long time to like get back.
Yeah.
You know, but
This is his defense for everything for the record.
I'm old.
Yeah, I'm old.
but no, it's doing better, a lot better. But I am very cautious when people grab my foot now.
Yeah.
100%.
What a great experience you
Yes.
taught him. Yeah.
Yes, it was definitely like I thought. I was out of the leg lock game for a while. 100%. Everyone knows that.
I don't even know what you just said there doesn't even make any sense
Yeah,
to
right.
me.
Javi wasn't teaching me for a while.
Gotcha.
I was out of that scene.
He's blaming Mineko.
Definitely not blaming Beneko for that. Absolutely not. But I was definitely out of the scene, and I thought I was, pretty complacent when I was very comfortable, and I got complacent in those positions, and I obviously haven't done a competition in a while where that was a factor. So, congratulations on that for sure. The game plan was very good, and I had a blast.
Was it the game plan?
Well, yeah, I know we talked.
Yeah,
off,
we
and
talked
you
at
talked
the
about-
last Chicago Open, the
Yeah.
one in spring, and my game plan was actually a pull, and I'd been working on leg locks since, IBJJF based school, and when I got my purple belt, I did Fight to Win a couple months later in no-gi, so my instructors were kind of forced to just let me do it because they didn't want to send me out there cold without
Right.
knowing anything, because up until then we hadn't worked any, heel hooks, toe holds, knee bars, things like that. And so I was a bit fortunate in that regard because other purple belts at our academy aren't allowed to do the leg locks like that. And we have a black belt named, he calls himself Professor Dragon, but he loves...
Wait.
Why not?
Yeah. And he's one of those guys who doesn't compete, but in the academy, he's a killer, and he focuses on leg locks, and he doesn't care about points, so he'll give up a sweep to get a good bite.
Sure.
I like
things
this
like
guy.
that. Yeah. So,
wrap your back. Wrap
and
your alley.
he's the one that sort of helped me develop, defenses and whatnot. And they didn't become a factor in any of my first three Fight to Win matches. But I started to feel more proficient by the time we went against each other. Yeah. And I had heard that you were good at leg locks, so I was like, this is going to be
fun. I'll test myself.
Fun. Right. So my actual plan in that match was to pull, but you pulled way faster than me and locked up that overhook.
Yeah.
I think on my right side. And so I had to adjust a little. and your guard is so squirmy that I felt. I mean, I was stuck, and eventually, I think 2 or 3 minutes in, you got a sweep, and when I actually sighed, I was relieved
You're like,
I
"Thank
was
God I'm on bottom."
This is where I wanted to be. I feel much more comfortable instead of trying to pass a really, really squirmy, really, really hard guard to pass. And we ended up you entered the leg entanglement with me willingly, and that was another. So
I was like, all right, let's go there. Okay,
and I think where I shifted the match was you're going for a corkscrew
right
up against your chest. It was a little low.
Yeah.
You could have grabbed my toes there. I watched our match a lot, and I'm like, whoa, that's bad. I left that there. I think the IBJJF mindset maybe was in both of our heads, and I actually just turned around and looked. I said, wait a minute, told. So I just turned and,
my foot was just laying there.
It was just laying there.
Not
My foot
even-
on the other side was laying there too.
Yeah, I know. I was actually, as soon as I couldn't get the corkscrew,
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm just going to get up.
Right.
And that's when
It
was beautiful.
Decent bite on the toe.
you grabbed that foot. I couldn't spin fast enough. I couldn't even tap fast enough. But it was, that was fantastic.
Thank you. It was,
But
it was awesome match.
Like, huge learning experience for both of us, obviously.
Right.
Because you see, like,
You a little more than him.
Definitely me, yes, for sure. Yes. I definitely learned a lot. But it's, it's just, I should definitely not have been so complacent. Like, you were like, okay, let's go there. I'm
Right.
like, oh, okay, I'll sit down to my butt and, and not fight this because I'm comfortable. I feel good here.
Right.
And it just, it leaves you, and in a true, if we were on the street fighting,
He would have broke you off. He was,
well, I definitely don't want to, wouldn't want to do that on the street fighting. So why would I do that in a super fight? I should not have been so complacent, like, oh, just sit me on my butt and let's just work this leg. I should have been like, get me the fuck up. This is not where I wanted to be. But that's just, looking back at it. It's interesting.
It's interesting because my third Fight to Win match against James Dunn, MMA fighter who actually trains with Dino Castillas, I had a similar bite, but I insisted on the Achilles.
Okay.
Instead of, wait a minute, swiveling my upper body and grabbing for the toes, because it's much safer and at probably a higher tap percentage. But in that fight, I didn't think about, I just grabbed the Achilles, gassed myself out, and then he smashed me for the last 2 minutes of the fight, lost the decision in a fight that I probably, if I, had a better strategy, I could have won. So that might have clicked in my head while we're in the leg entanglement after I got out of the, after you couldn't finish the corkscrew. And then I was like, wait a minute, told. And so now, and after that, after our fight, I started looking for toe holds way more.
Yeah.
And, obviously I finished the last Fight to Win match with a toe hold, and I just see them more now.
Beautiful.
Yeah. It's so, that
cool.
fight was very, like a seminal moment in sort of, for me, in my progression as a practitioner. So it's a fight I look to a lot because, too, also, when you lose your first 3 Fight to Win matches like I did, you start to wonder. So it was a big deal for me to just get off the schneid too, regardless of how I did it. Unfortunately, against you,
with a dirty leg lock.
But and one thing I love about Seth is like he doesn't care win or lose. He's like, nobody gives a fuck if your local purple belt loses a match. Your friends just like to see you on there. People like to watch you on Flow Grappling. At the end of the day, they don't remember. But as a competitor, like we like to win. You hate to lose. You're obviously going to lose or learn something from losing, but you want to win, and that sort of held my confidence. A week later, I took third at Master Worlds in our division after a really brutal weight cut, but it sort of buoyed me because when my first year at purple belt, I didn't win very much, and so that was sort of the culmination of all of the hard work that I put in at purple belt, and then I got promoted to brown belt later in the year. So that's why I think it's like I said, a seminal moment in sort of my progression. Yeah. And all it took was 1 second, be like, wait a minute.
Wait, I can do this.
I don't have to just Achilles him because he's not tapping to this.
And now you can toe hold everyone.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. No.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's really interesting, and I have to give props to my professors, Professor Andre, Professor Annette, for being flexible. Like, hey, if this guy's doing fight to win, I know our rules normally are we're by IBJJF school, we wait till brown belt. But for him, if you're going to do a super fight, they want to get you out there. They want to have you ready.
Yeah.
And so better to be ready and to learn the leg locks. It was kind of one of those aha moments. Like, I thought I had a good guard until the
people
person
could
attack my feet. Right. And then you're like, oh, I have to change which leg I cross. I have to change, I have to adjust my timing. If there are no leg locks, or if the only leg lock is an ankle lock, and you get to a certain point and it's really hard to finish ankle locks unless you're Mikey Musumeci, then you start getting complacent. You start feeling like like I said, I thought I was good in guard, and then you start developing, and it just jogs the brain, and that's what I was talking about earlier in terms of the progression of competition in this country. Because if you are proficient, there's such a huge chasm that I see in terms of proficiency of leg locks. Mm-hmm. And that goes through, if you're somebody that's been training for 20, 30 years, but you didn't focus on leg locks, and you know a basic ankle lock, and you know how to finish the toe hold, and you know how to do a knee bar. But if your training wasn't focused on that, and then you go and have a no-gi match against a guy, he could be like Nicky Rodriguez, or Gordon Ryan and Nicky Ryan, those guys that show up with 2 years of training and that they're getting you in a heel hook. Right. Danaher's posted videos of like his hobbyist students tapping world champions, but with leg locks. And so it's the great equalizer, and it because you don't need to pass somebody's guard. You don't need to.
Well,
I agree with that equalizer.
Yeah.
Especially, I'll tend to go for a couple of things, but for bigger guys, when I roll against bigger guys, I definitely tend to look for more leg lock situations, just because I want to stay away from their fucking strong upper body. Right. And I feel like my whole body on their leg is kind of like a good thing. You know? So that, and then I'll let them take my back. I like to cross their legs. Just it works a lot easier on bigger guys because they don't realize what I'm doing when I give them my back, and I'm like, yeah, just take my back. And then I cross their legs and fuck straight ankle lock. They're like, what the fuck? Javi, of course, a big teacher of that for me. Yeah. But yeah,
I'm just pleased to hear you're still using that lesson.
Fuck yeah, of course. I do it often, and I do it the same. And
I like to call that the surprise bitch.
Right.
You're like, oh, I got your back. That hurts. Stop doing that.
But I totally agree. Definitely,
especially like if we're all short guys, right? Somebody has a longer leg, more to bite.
Yep.
As long as you're above their knee, you got a lot of control, and then guard passing becomes easier. Mm-hmm. Other forms of guard become easier. Butterfly guard becomes easier. If they're worried about you elevating to a certain point and rolling under for a leg lock, then your butterfly guards becomes more dangerous. Yeah. And so these are all things that I started to sort of have an epiphany after I opened up, because like I said, I thought I was good at guard until, the person on top could just grab my toes and I'm tapping. It changed the way I play De La Hiva, single leg X. All of those things, because like Danaher said, or Dean Lister said to Danaher, why would you ignore 50% of the body? It matters because we're in jiu-jitsu, we're using all of our body. Right. We might as well have it to our disposal. And I wish IBJJF would allow the black belts to do heel hooks, open it up for, the whole thing, because, there's a lot of people don't look at IBJJF no-gi the same way they would somebody that won ADCC, because you're playing a limited game. If I can't reap, I can't do a heel hook. Then it's so
it would definitely change the entire scene for IBJJF.
There's a lot of meta involved, especially in our age group with only a 5-minute match. Right. We're not incentivized to continue to keep piling on points, because if you can get a lead and it's 5 minutes, there's only so many positions that can happen. Right. And, if they can't throw a Hail Mary submission like a heel hook at you, then you can just, grind out points win because they don't have something at their disposal, which leads to a lot of quick taps.
Right.
So it changes the competition a lot. And I'm one of those that I feel like, especially black belt, because you're an expert.
Yeah.
You should be able to protect yourself.
I think it's pretty silly that somebody with just 2 years of experience could go into a Naga and have access to a larger variety of techniques than somebody who's a black belt at a world championship level match.
Exactly.
But I also understand that they're trying to cater to a specific thing. And we've discussed this before.
Yeah.
I do actually appreciate that the rules are basically identical between gi and no gi, especially when we're running events concurrently. Like, we just had the Chicago Open. Gi was Saturday, no gi was Sunday.
Right.
I've been to tournaments where gi and no gi are run on the same day or following each other, and the rules are completely different between each.
that's
each form.
rough. Yeah.
So that I think for the competitors, some competitors, not all, for some competitors, that's actually really tricky to be able to flip that switch. What am I allowed to do? How are you going to game? How are you going to develop a game around that?
Yeah.
So I understand those two being identical, having some benefit, which is why I think you should probably just allow knee reaping and heel hooks in the gi.
Yeah.
You really think heel hooks in the gi? You think that's safe?
I just did it yesterday. Okay. Still walking.
Yeah.
All my training partners just fine.
It's more technical in the gi though. So if you do technical,
so what are you actually afraid of when it comes to heel hooks in the gi? What's the concern? Are you about to shoot me with that? There's a more technical heel hook in the gi, or are you about to say, oh, there's so much more friction because of the pants?
I was going to say that you could trap it. You could trap the heel even more because of the friction. Because
we're not talking about wearing shoes, bro.
That's
it's just
true.
pants.
Just pants. But there's more slippage in.
So you're saying that heel hook escapes require some degree of slipperiness? is that what you're, so that sounds like a very non-technical answer to how to slip a heel hook.
So here's how you get out of a heel hook. Be slippery. That's
Sweat a lot.
Sweat a lot. Grease up those heels.
Vaseline, right?
Vaseline on the heel. There you go, Javi.
Definitely seen that solution used
teaching
before.
Teaching the kids.
So the general consensus would be that they're too dangerous in the gi because of the friction and
the general consensus is wrong.
Yeah. I think just like in any submission, once you're that deep into it, you're gonna get armbarred. Once you go that deep, there's a point of no return.
Yeah.
And there's definitely a point of no return for a heel hook, point of no return for a straight ankle lock. There's a point of no return for every submission, period. And if you don't know the defenses or don't know where you are in that position, you're gonna get fucking heel hooked. You're gonna get armbarred, and that's just the way it is. That's how I see it. Everything should be legal. I'm a big just fucking
At black belt.
At black belt,
yeah.
everything.
I can understand not wanting to have certain techniques at lower belt levels.
I agree with that.
I still disagree with the way purple belt and blue belt are
identical. There's no step up from there.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe one day we'll change that, but my fear is that they'll take stuff away from blue belts to do it.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, like
But
okay,
even at white belt, you can straight ankle lock, right?
Yeah, you can do straight ankle lock. They just changed
all
that.
the way
I think.
to
Yeah.
straight ankle lock, white belt, 16 years and older, legal technique.
Legal technique, right?
Yeah, and been that way for a long time.
Right.
And we could
all
talk about the rules all the time because I don't know. Yeah, IBJJF is obviously doing something right. They run multiple events every week. They're the only game in town in terms of this kind of big.
Some of that is the IBJJF doing stuff right, and some of that is just people being sheeple.
Yeah.
I mean, let's be honest here. You believe the IBJJF is the only game in town. That means the IBJJF is the only game in town for you.
For me, right?
Yeah. If you're like, nah, man, like Fuji, totally equivalent to IBJJF or Naga. Or
I want another Naga belt. Let's go do it.
There we go. Yeah. So like it's the value that you put on the tournament. Like if we got the whole of the United States to be like, you know what, we're not doing IBJJF anymore. We're going to do the US BJJ Federation tournaments.
Right now,
only.
there isn't a big tournament like there's no other body like
Yeah,
that.
there's
But
no
at least some
governing
part of that
body,
is
right?
because every time
Not
somebody
nice,
tries to
yeah.
grow something, everyone's like, yeah, but it's not the IBJJF.
Right.
Like
So
okay,
the IBJJF is like the UFC
right,
and every other
I
freaking
can't
little
beat
thing
the
is-
incumbent because you keep insisting that it's so much better than absolutely everything else out there, including tournaments you haven't competed in. Yeah, like,
But when you have bad experiences at like a Naga or whatever it is, then you're like, fuck, the IBJJF does do it.
Well, I mean,
really well.
in terms of running a tournament, nothing comes close, And now that they're actually on time sometimes or ahead of schedule,
the head of schedule has caused some problems of its own, though.
It has, yes. But in terms of other tournaments, man, it's
and I will always say that about the IBJJF, that they do know how to run a good tournament.
I mean, they're definitely building a brand and a cult following for sure. I mean, the brand, the logo, all their stuff that they're
The
doing.
logo. Why did the logo come into this?
I think they did a good job with the logo. I mean,
graphic designer?
look at Naga and then look at IBJJF's branding. Okay,
That was totally
I mean, look
sweet
at the
in,
medals
like,
of the IBJJF.
2005.
Look at the medals of the IBJJF and then compare them to the medals of anything else. So it's just it all works. They do a really good job. Whoever does their branding does a great job.
And
it
honestly, people bitch about the refs all the time, but they have the best refs.
Yeah.
They have the most extensive.
a lot of the refs are the same refs, though. So
Correct,
like,
but if you go to a local tournament, you might have a purple belt. Not saying he might not know the rules.
No,
better, but
it's okay. You definitely call. Which purple belt would you like to call out in the local Chicagoland area?
No, I've reffed some of these small tournaments too.
Right.
It's hard.
There you
Shit
go.
is hard.
Fuck yeah, I
It's
would-
hard as hell.
Yeah, definitely don't want
Yeah,
to
no,
do that.
for sure. My least favorite thing in this at all, even though I hate coaching because I'm a terrible coach, I hate reffing.
Yeah.
I've been formally trained in how to do it in several sports, and I just never want to be the guy. I don't know how Mineko does it. Did it.
Dude, I don't know how.
Yeah, because everybody's yelling at you. You're an idiot.
it's rough.
Both sides are telling you you're wrong. I thought when I reffed a combat corner in Milwaukee for the last couple of years. I was like, jiu-jitsu parents probably different than like hockey parents or stereotypical baseball fan,
Right.
And now it's the same shit. It's just parents yelling and screaming and
Man, the worst is when there's like, and ladies, don't get upset, but it's especially bad for me when it's like a high-pitched scream, okay, which mostly comes from the jiu-jitsu moms. When I hear a parent yell something like, break it, and I'm just like, what is going on? What if that was your child?
It's so fucked up.
Yeah.
That's
what happened
really
to the
fucked
gentle
up.
art?
Yeah. No.
Are there any tournaments where they don't allow coaching or yelling of any kind?
I don't
Japan,
know.
probably.
Yeah.
No, sir. Is there like?
I mean, I've
no one's ever. There's no tournament where it's like we don't allow coaches. We don't allow anyone to just go out there and compete and no coaching.
Like not even coach.
No coach. No
like
nothing. Yeah, nothing.
Not that I
never heard
know
of
of.
it, yeah.
Never, huh?
No.
nothing. Not even the Worlds. There's always a coach, right?
Yeah.
Well, not always. Like you could go
they have
without
to be
your
a black
coach.
belt.
Yeah.
I did Nogi Worlds
Behind the
Yeah,
they have
well,
their certain
Yeah,
thing.
Yeah.
No, I've been the coach plenty of times, screaming from the other side of the barrier because I'm
Right.
not allowed in.
'Cause you're not allowed
that
in,
one
right.
drives me crazy
Yeah.
as IBJJF rules go.
Yeah. See, I went to Nogi Worlds in 2017 as a purple belt, and neither of my instructors were out there. I had to get coached from the stands from my brother-in-law.
Okay.
Because we didn't have a black belt with
Yeah,
me.
Nogi Worlds is particularly bad because of the way the stadium's set up.
Yes.
You can't, yeah.
So
Yeah,
the way the
you're
Anaheim Convention Center is set up, and so and we all compete. It's different. Like having a coach in your corner, there's a bit of less anxiety. You feel a little more comfortable, especially if it's a coach that knows your game really well.
Yeah.
And
See, I'm not the most coachable guy. I don't really hear what they're saying out there too much. So like the main thing I need is like somebody to tell me what the time is. And if I'm losing and I'm clearly not aware of it, like maybe point that out to me too. Like if I think I'm up by 4, but the other guy's actually got the 4, that's bad. What do you mean that sweep didn't count?
Yeah, so I've lost matches at Houston Open where they had the guy put the wrong hand up, gave the advantage to me.
Okay.
Instead of the
And you're
other
like,
guy.
cool, I got
I'm
an
cool.
advantage.
And then I'm gonna start stalling. I'm like, I'm up at an advantage. And then you wait. He pulled it back, raised the other guy's hand, and there's nothing I could do because I thought so having somebody there, that it seems simple, but those are big things. And then also to have somebody to keep the ref honest.
Yeah.
To be able to to argue for you or you know,
go to war for you.
go to war for you.
Right.
And
That's why in the future when we have robot refs, we won't have to worry about this shit, right? I'm just saying, it could be coming down. You never
Anthony
know.
Musk over here revolutionized.
All right, Paul, did you bring a gi with you, or are you doing technique with us?
Oh yeah, I brought a gi. Yes.
How's that foot feeling?
I mean,
you want me to show it on Anthony
the
or to
famous
show it on
dough
Javi?
no, you're doing it on Javi.
All right.
But, so he can appreciate it.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Yes. All right, let's do that. Let's go do some technique. Where can people find you?
Saigon Cinnamon _BJJ at Instagram, Paul Doe on Facebook. I'm all about positive vibes.
And where are you teaching at? Where's the school?
I'm helping teach the fundamentals at Brazil 021. It's at 1911 West Chicago, Chicago and Damon in the Westtown neighborhood. I'm there every day.
Sweet.
Helping out and living the jiu-jitsu lifestyle. I live a block away, like we said earlier.
The proposal went through.
Yeah, the proposal went through, and now we're staying. And as long as Brazil 021 is in the neighborhood, and you know, that's where to find me. I'm there every day, 6:30 a.m.
Are you doing another Fight to Win? I think it'll be here in October.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to do Fight to Win again if Seth will have me. It's one of the best experiences that I've ever had, and you know, obviously having done it, you know, it's an amazing feeling to walk out on the stage and everybody watch you, you know, because then you do an IBJJF tournament or something else, like there's white noise. The people that are watching you know you, but now, you know, Seth will tell you backstage like tens of thousands of people were watching on Flow Grappling. Like, you know, I got tapped. No pressure at all. You know, like I got tapped by Danny Villanueva in my first one in April of 2017, and that got posted on
highlight reel.
And the next thing you know, you look over, you're like, oh shit, 24,000 people me getting smashed. And then now I'm finally on the other end, like, you know,
smashing Zito.
Well, no, the last one I faced Sandoval, I walk off the stage and Seth's like, oh shit, dude, you're on Flow Grappling. And the next thing you know, you're like, oh wow, this is crazy. And on the Facebook post, somebody was calling me like, oh, that guy just totally Paul Harris'd it. Oh, because I held on for a couple seconds, but if you watch the,
I thought they were saying like, you know, powerful technique.
No. I held on. So Juan was tapping the mat, and I held on because I didn't see it. And the ref didn't stop because I'm not going to stop until the ref tells me to stop. And so I guess a couple guys on Facebook saw that, like, oh shit, he held on to that, like that's so dirty. And then I'm like, I don't even really want to respond to this because I can go back and and it triggered me, but I had to bite my tongue. But yeah, it's kind of cool. You know, you have to take that with being on the other end, being the guy that gets tapped and tens of thousands of people watch the clip, you know, and so if you're willing to accept that, they can, you know, have such an amazing experience because it's completely different than your run-of-the-mill jiu-jitsu tournament. Exactly. And the lights, the stage.
It was a lot of fun.
Yeah,
it's so much fun being up there like that giant like stage. It's bigger than a IBJJF ring.
Right.
You know? It's so cool that you have that. I really had a lot of fun. I wish Javi would do it.
Yeah.
I'm really upset about that.
Nobody would want to face him. All the dirty leg locks and wrist locks, and they'd be afraid of
Find some other dirty leg locks.
Javi versus opponent, prison rules.
Yes. We should be able to throw knives up there at him. Here, knife, fucking collie stick. Who cares? Throw it all up there.
Yeah, bring your own weapon night. I believe that's a format in pro wrestling. Yeah.
Tables, ladders, and chairs. Yeah.
Oh my.
So yeah, we're gonna show a little the dough hold from Single Leg X. I like to do that.
Sounds
you know, it's a big part of my game. So
sweet.
Yeah,
let's go do it.
Appreciate you coming out and doing this, man. It's been fun.
Thank you for having me, man.
Yeah,
after
man,
all this time. Yeah.
Sure. We'll see you guys. Bye.
Bye.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. For more information about Grappler Union Podcast, you could visit us at our website at grapplerunion.com. You can follow us on Instagram at Grappler Union. Please like us on Facebook. Be sure to subscribe on iTunes. And all of our episodes are available on our YouTube channel. Say what?
Be sure to subscribe.
Yeah, subscribe to all that shit. You got to do another take, right?
Oh.